Hello, and thank you for downloading another lost episode of Amazing Spider-Man Classics. This is John Wilson, host of the show, and this is episode 38, covering Amazing Spider-Man 50. Just to let you know that I had a little bit of a mix-up in my numbering of episodes. There are actually going to be several lost episodes. This is 38. 39 is going to cover issue 51. 40 is going to cover issue 52, and then the email episode will be episode 41, and the new episodes, brand new episodes recorded with a brand new panel, will begin with episode 42. So there's one extra episode in there more than I had said last time. So those preliminaries out of the way. Thank you for downloading this episode. This was recorded 5 years ago. There's a little bit of re-record gaffe that I explain in the episode, but without further ado, here is Amazing Spider-Man Classics.
Spider-Man does whatever a spider can. Spins a web any size, catches thieves just like flies. Look out, here comes the Spider-Man.
Hello and welcome to another brand new episode of Amazing Spider-Man Classics in association with SpiderManCrawlspace.com. This is episode 38 of the show, where we're going to be talking about one of the most important issues of Spider-Man ever to be published. That is Amazing Spider-Man issue 50. And here with me in the studio, as always, to talk about this issue is my good friend Donovan Grant. Hello, Don.
Hello again.
And Josh Bertoni. Hey, Josh.
Hey, just biding my time until the Mayans end us all next year.
Yeah. So there's a little bit of a thing going on. We have already recorded this part of the episode before, but there was a recording failure. So we have most of the previous recording, but not this first part. About, 8 pages into the issue, you're going to hear a transition where we just go over to the previous recording. So I'm saying all that to say, if we make a comment twice that I do not catch in the edits, that's why. It's just been a little bit of time since we last recorded, and we may have forgotten what our comments exactly were. But also, in this episode, to talk about this issue, not only this issue, but this whole trilogy of issues, 50 through 52, is none other than 20-minute long box star Stephen Lacey.
Hello, it's great to be back. And I can see sunlight outside, which means I'm not going to be hallucinating baby Spider-Man crawling all over the ceiling again like I did last time, which was only about a year ago.
We totally had a joke set up for how we were going to introduce Steve on this episode, but it's been 5 years.
Oh my god, yes, it was the Steve Ditko thing. Because you ended the last episode by going, we're getting Steve.
Yeah, that episode has just dropped as we're recording this. It's early October. We're trying to get all this done before we get the episode out. So, happy Halloween a little bit early.
Ooh.
Yeah.
My 2-year-old son is going to dress up as Superboy, I think. And my daughter's going to be Supergirl, and my wife's going to be Lana. It's going to be a great Halloween. It's going to be fun. Anyways, this is not a Halloween episode of Amazing Spider-Man Classics. This is Spider-Man 50. Spider-Man No More.
I wonder how that's going to hold up. Because there are about another 550 and definitely no more issues of Amazing Spider-Man. So who's going to fill it if Spider-Man is no more?
Well, maybe they can get a half black, half Hispanic kid to do it.
Is that a thing?
Maybe this is where Miles Morales begins.
Someone should invent SJW so we can blame them.
Was Miles Morales a thing at this point?
He was.
In time?
It was 2010. I just
Okay. He just come because we just had the death of Ultimate Spider-Man that summer.
Oh, yeah, so he's just starting. Well, we are excited to get into this big issue, and Stephen has the recap, so just a couple of bits of intro. This is April 11th, 1967, whenever this issue hits the stands, and it has a July 1967 cover date. Do you want to describe the cover, Steve, or should I?
I have a note for this. The cover features Peter Parker walking dejectedly towards the camera, whilst the background of the image is a giant picture of Spidey, his back to the reader, glancing over his shoulder at the receding Peter.
The what? Okay. It obviously it ripped off the 2008 Incredible Hulk film. Shameless of me to do that.
Can we say lack of backgrounds? Because I'm not sure vaguely parallel lines really cuts it for me as a background.
Well, I mean, that doesn't bother you, does it? Would you say?
No, I'm just trolling, which is a thing that people do online in 2011.
The year which is now.
Yeah, surely that'll be done by 2016. I dig the red.
I do like the red.
Joke, it is one of the best covers of Spider-Man. It does so much with so little on there. And there's a reason why this is such an iconic? There's a reason why this is such an iconic comics image.
Yeah, I love this cover. I mean, you see this and it stays in your mind as much as the trash can scene we're going to be talking about in the issue itself. They're two hugely memorable images of Spider-Man. This is the image of like Peter and Betty with Spider-Man's shadow standing between them, only times 1,000.
Because she's not there.
She's not there, but it's that same kind of really cool iconography.
She's off panel with Ned
Spider-Man.
Leeds doing stuff.
Like,
if in the widescreen version of the cover, you could see Betty and Ned getting it on. Jazzy Johnny Romita turned that in and stands like, walloping web snappers will be ruined if we turn this in. And he just used the scissors and cut. He's like, and there. And Dicko,
also like the most direct, because usually the covers are Spidey fights a supervillain, but this is more directly about the inner workings of the comic book itself. So it kind of means more in that way, because oh wow, this is kind of playing for keeps. There's no villains here. There's no will Spidey stop the Smasher, which is later on.
And I don't want to sound like a pretentious art school student, but obviously it's symbolism that Spider-Man is so much bigger than Peter Parker on the cover.
How can he walk away from such a massive responsibility? Find out now.
Actually, yeah, that's a really good point. Is how could he walk away from such a responsibility? But he's doing it.
He shows you now.
How can he walk away from such a massive responsibility and repeatedly walk away from it 30 times after that? I mean, this isn't even the first time he's quit. This is number 3 in the series.
Well, the last time Peter Parker quit, I was guesting on the show.
Well, we're just going to have you on every time Peter quits.
Mm-hmm. So Steve Lacey's going to be a regular co-host. He also quit in issue 3, for half an issue when Dr. Octopus threw him out a window.
We didn't know that Lacey existed back then, so that's why he wasn't on that episode.
Peter Parker's quitting Spider-Man is a bit like the Thing turning human in early issues of the Fantastic Four. It just happens a lot in those early issues, then very rarely ever since. Oh, I like the Fantastic Four.
I know. And then in Original Sin, he's like, what, Johnny? You're the reason why, I can't turn back into Ben Grimm because you stopped one of my transformations years ago. And for some reason, I turned into human 20 times since then. Therefore, Original Sin has not happened yet. It's 2011.
Okay.
Shall I take us into the body of the book if we're done with the cover?
I think we have spent our load on the cover quite a bit. So let's go in and see what happens inside the book.
God, I hope not. That will never get a 10.0 at the CGC scale.
God bless.
Stan the Man Lee and Johnny Ring-a-Ding Romita invite you to join the capricious company of Mickey DeMeo, Inker, and Sam Rosen, letterer. Hang loose, hero. It's action time. What say we skip any long introductions? If one glance doesn't tell you where this little caper's at, then turn in your web shooter on the way out. With a crack and a zock, Spider-Man quickly follows an office robbery in classic Marvel full-scale splash page style. I mean, zock is a pretty decent sound effect, but it is no wank.
What can be?
Indeed.
So if we can't tell where this caper's at, we have to turn in our web shooters. Is it possible that Peter couldn't tell what this was all about, and that's why he quit being Spider-Man? He turned in his web shooter at Stan Lee's suggestion?
My God, the metatextual references at that point.
We're gonna say if you can't tell what's going to happen, then quit. I can't tell he's going to quit in this image.
It's called Spider-Man No More.
Tis true.
Anyway, continuing, one of the raiders fires a gun at Spidey, but the dialogue says he flips back despite the art showing him flipping forward, and either way he dodges the bullet. The crooks pile on him, but by focusing his chi into his fists, Wait, that doesn't sound right. The crooks pile on him, but by using the hand-to-hand combat skills learned on a 6-year odyssey around the world studying with the world's greatest fighter... No, that doesn't still sound right either. Using the power of the yellow... No! Using his amazing spider strength! Spider-Man breaks free. I'm literally reading this for the first time since we recorded 5 years ago. I'm just like, what the fuck am I going with these jokes? He gathers the crooks together, rips the door off its hinges, and with a scrack, he crushes it down over their heads, entrapping them.
That's awesome.
Martha, why did you say that name? The payroll clerk... Oh, wait, no, that hasn't happened yet. Martha, the payroll clerk, wants to thank Spider-Man, but a prick in a blue suit... No, hold on. That's not quite right. Martha, the payroll clerk, wants to thank Spider-Man, but prick in a blue suit, the payroll clerk, holds her back as he's a Daily Bugle reader, and apparently they aren't Spidey's biggest fans. Spidey heads off up the outside of the building, ruminating over the bad press he's got from Jameson's editorials. He swings to where he has stashed his civilian clothes and changes back to Peter. I've done a couple of pages there. I'm assuming you guys have comments.
Oh, no, you're flowing.
Yeah, that opening scene is so much just fighting. I mean, there's not a whole lot to it. I do like that we get both sides of the public perception with this couple. We have the friendly woman who's thankful for being saved, and we have the, asshole man who doesn't like Spider-Man, even though he just saved his life.
And I think this is a great fight scene, and I love the shot of him kind of just pushes them away, and then the thing with the door is just really, really inventive.
Wait, so are we saying that Spider-Man saved Martha?
Well,
no,
Amy Adams
we're not
wasn't
saying
there.
that, because in 2011 we have no reason to say that.
But Martha
still
was
didn't
in
even come
trouble
out
and he
yet.
saved her. We absolutely have a reason to say it. What?
I don't think we can ever do any podcast show without mentioning that.
My favourite panel on this is the bottom one on page 2, which is what I like to think of as the pinball panel, where you've got every single extendable limb on Spider-Man's body making contact with someone's chin or chest or neck or something. They don't extend, they dangle. It's a really fun, energetic panel.
I think this is one of the most energetic fight scenes that Romita has done in his run up to this point. It's really, really action packed. It's really energetic. It's really frenetic. It doesn't really stop to take a look at what's going on. Every panel, something actiony is happening. And you might think that'd be simple, but sometimes there's posturing, sometimes there's dialogue, sometimes there's blast you, Spider-Man. But here it's they try to kill him, they miss, he hits them hard. He rips these people apart without break. And I like how Spider-Man's portrayed as being so overtly powerful that he's not even kind of worrying about these guys. He's almost not even trying, and that's actually kind of more rare than you would imagine in the early days, I think.
And the use of anatomy with Romita, I mean, everyone is in motion in every single panel, with the exception of the door cracked hoods in the bottom. But Spider-Man, his body is, Romita's just killing it.
It's so good.
Yeah.
Well, in order to make the fall seem better, Spidey's got to be on the top of his game, and considering there's no named villain, there's no recurring characters, I'm assuming Martha never comes back. She's the only named character.
There's a lot of Marthas. There's Martha Connors. There's Martha Jameson, maybe? No. There's Marla. Never mind.
Yeah. God, it's just like Superman and Batman. They've both got a mother called Martha. Can you believe that? Considering the lack of all the things that you would expect from a classic Spidey fight, this one really pops and zings.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I think that, because I think that, personally, Ditko is a more of a dynamic action artist than Romita generally, but I think Romita is pulling out all the stops, and he's giving him a run for his money in this scene.
He knows this is issue 50. He knows this is big, and he's bringing his A game.
He's also been on the title for a while, so he's been able to get a feel for how to do a Spidey fight versus how to do a Daredevil fight, because Daredevil was the book for this.
Yeah, this finishes a year. This is his 12th issue.
Oh man, I literally never thought about that till just now in 2016. Interesting.
I love him.
Shall I continue?
Yeah, minutes later.
Returning to his apartment, Harry Pubes Osborn tells Peter that once again Aunt May has got lonely and started to come down with a near-fatal illness because of his hair. They're short and curlies.
I clearly forgot about that. That came out of nowhere.
That is
How can you forget about it when this is the first time you're hearing this?
Well done.
I'll shut up.
Pubes Osborne tells Peter that once again Aunt May has got lonely and decided to come down with a near-fatal illness. Some people just can't cut those apron strings. Peter speeds across town on his motorbike, and if you just take a look at what's going on here, and I'm going to provide you with the Marvel version of a Flash fact. Quicksilver fact, it's like the Flash, but slightly grumpier and dies pointlessly at the end of the film, which hasn't happened yet.
Neither has the first one.
So since Joe Quesada has been editing, oh my God, this is old to me. He's no longer EIC, is he? Since Joe Quesada has been editor-in-chief of Marvel, no Marvel characters have been allowed to ride a motorbike without a helmet. And somehow this has been a bit less controversial than Nick Fury and Wolverine getting Nicorette patches.
Well, the letter writers did have a problem with this, and we're going to talk about this actually in this issue. The helmet usage is a problem.
He has spider sense, though. He doesn't need a helmet.
You are totally right, but still.
At the Parker house...
No. What? So, that is one of my continuity... That is one of my continuity pet peeves. And Wilson and Bailey, if you're ever listening, I am putting both of you on notice right now. For the rest of Classics, you need to remember that up until the Roger Stern run, they're living in Anna Watson's house, and Aunt May's house from Amazing Fantasy 15 is abandoned and decrepit until the Roger Stern run.
Allow me to edit on the fly.
Since I've actually already recorded some of those episodes, I'm just going to have to insert an argument with the computer discussing this point.
Just drop in the soundbite of Don going, no.
I'm not Don!
Well, I haven't got things coming up.
Wait, since which issue?
Since Peter moved out, when Peter moved in the Harrys, Aunt May moved in the Aunt Anna's, and even Dan Slott gets this wrong. He was going through Aunt May and Uncle Ben.
This wrong.
He was going through Aunt May and Uncle Ben's house. In fact, it was around the time that we originally recorded this. He's like, "Oh, Mary Jane, look at all the memories here. Why? Here's where Dr. Octopus, had tea with Aunt May, haha." And I'm like, "No, that was next door, Slott."
Yeah. It was. Or it will be in 4 issues.
You and Bailey, you need to get that right, or I will be angry and write emails into Classics.
Well, allow me to amend my synopsis on the fly, because I only wrote it a couple of weeks ago, at most. At the easily mistaken for the Parker house. Doc Bromwell.
It is actually the domicile of Ms. Anna Watson.
That's awesome.
Doc Bromwell has medically sedated Aunt May before getting a bodyguard to hide the bars of medicine in a sailing bag just in case May turns into the world's biggest pop star just before she kicks the bucket. What? Was that a Michael Jackson dying joke?
Oh. Is that what you call that?
I didn't know what that was.
I wrote these things 5 years ago, and I'm literally reading them for the first time.
And I'm thinking,
I am so glad that you didn't do any prep for this, because these reactions are hilarious.
This is a weird episode.
Peter mopes about how being Spider-Man prevented him from being there for her. Anna, Angel of Mercy, Watson, guilt. Apparently I gave everyone inverted comma middle names.
Yes, you did.
I was working for some reason.
Anna, Angel of Mercy, Watson guilts Peter into never being away from a phone until May gets better. Peter then has the most protracted monologue ever. Part 1 is on the doorstop. He then shuts up until he's on his bike driving home with his head down, thank heavens for Spidey sense. Ah! Yes! I crushed
He's not even looking at the road. He's catching Pokemon or something.
But
you can't do that. You'll never be able to catch Pokemon in real life.
There you go.
So part 2, he's in the middle of his speech whilst he's driving with his head down, and then he waits until he's back at his apartment before finishing his speech. Quick Spidey fact check, is that his apartment, or can we just assume, he pays rent for it, it's sort of his, even though it's not?
It's Harry's place. Harry's paying for it, right?
Oh god, he's not even paying rent. I got that wrong.
No, he's not.
He's just
Harry said he would fit the bill for the rent.
Anyway,
Harry's lonely.
Let me pause there for a moment, just in case we've got anything to say about these few panels, especially that really long one.
They're not at ESU, they're another school.
Well, I love Peter being like, oh, if only I was Spider-Man, I totally would have been by Aunt May's side. And, not like a normal college student who, normal college student. Like, he could have been at the Coffee Bean, when this happened to Aunt May. He could have been on a date with Gwen or Mary Jane, or he could have been, listening to like, Harry show him his bug collection, like as he tried to like kill him.
If only I wasn't getting laid, I'd be with her. If only.
Or getting high. It's the 60s. It's 67, the summer of love. I wouldn't know I wasn't there.
Oh, gee, Peter, I don't know about this. My dad said that drugs are bad. Oh, come on, Harry. A little bit of Mary Jane never hurt anyone.
Yeah, Peter's the drug. The drug.
A little bit of Gwen never hurt anyone either. Eh, Harry? Eh?
I'm flying on Gwendy.
Oh, man.
Now
These
the flash is out of the way, you can finally date that
memories
girl.
for me. I'm not sure how old I was when my mom died. That's just Marvel editorial changing things. I think my dad's the Green Goblin.
Just say Oi Glaven as well.
Yeah, no.
Wow, Harry, you haven't even taken a hit of anything yet. Why are you having a freak out?
He's just that
The next
high-strung.
morning, Harry Osborn's found naked face down on ESU's lawn. Freaks. Actual reality. Act up. Fight AIDS.
Man, we are stretching these muscles.
Quick, someone take the comics code authority off this book.
What an image.
Okay, ignoring Harry's little goblin on the SU campus, let's see what happens after his test that he takes.
Is that a hint that I should go back to my synopsis?
A little bit of a hint, but, friendly one.
Okay, so the next day Peter sits an exam at college, moderated by Professor #Spider Island Warren. I think that was a contemporary reference.
Yes, it was.
Yes.
Harry, artificially aged to have the face of an 80-year-old, noticed that Peter was off his game during the exam, and the only way you could know that is because he was looking at Peter's answers and copying them from his own. Warren holds Peter back to warn him that his grades are slipping. As he leaves the classroom, Gwen, no pupil Stacy, invites Peter to a party at her house that evening, but the distracted Peter declines. Walking across campus, Peter again muses on how his life as Spider-Man is playing havoc with his personal life.
What is he wearing?
I was actually doing too. Is he wearing like a raincoat or something?
Under the raincoat, that sweater.
Oh, yeah.
What is that?
This is the one thing I remember from 5 years ago that we called a pube sweater.
It's made of the finest weave of, I think it's Russian granny thatch.
Osborne hair?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's 80-year-old aged pubic hair shaved off of some peasant who lives on the edge of Siberia.
If I ever meet Stanley, I will never tell him about ASM Classics because I can't bring my heart to break his. This is what we think of you and John Romita.
If you feel like mentioning my Fantastic Four podcast that I'm thinking about doing at the time of recording.
Well, I don't know. She'll have to be out for me to do that.
Well, I reckon by the time this episode sees like I could get 190 episodes out.
Keep it flying, boys.
It's coming out by Halloween 2011, Steven. You're crazy.
Anyways, the comic. So yeah, where are Gwen's eyes?
Well, okay, I think I said
on Peter's ass.
Oh! High five.
And wondering also what that shirt is that he's wearing.
In my essential, I see her eyes perfectly fine. They are kind of slanted, but like I can see her iris, I can see her pupils. Like
in the scan of the comic that I'm pretty sure is the DVD one. Yeah, I can't see any of that. She's just doing that thing, when you sort of roll your eyes,
like
you
inking
can
thing?
see the white.
I should send you a scan of this.
Thing because in Marvel Unlimited, I do see eyes, but like those things are recolored.
Back at home, Peter ruminates on how. What? What the hell? Hello, it's me, it's Steve from the future. Who is this? Josh? Don? John, is that you?
Steve, are you okay?
I have to warn you guys, I'm from 5 years in the future, from 2016. I have to warn you guys of something terrible that's going to happen between now and then.
We already know about the Libyan terrorist. We're going to wear bulletproof vests.
No.
Is it our kids? Is something got to be done about our kids?
It's not that. There's a Phantom Stranger series that's written by Dante Dio, and it's shit.
I thought you were warning about Brexit or something.
We're not
A Phantom
English,
Stranger
that doesn't
solo
affect us.
series? What do you think this is, the 70s?
I actually didn't know about that.
Marvel are going to give Howling Commanders of S.H.I.E.L.D. another go. Why? It was the worst thing they ever published in the 2000s that wasn't written by Bill Jemas.
They're going to cancel Fantastic Four because of a grudge between Fox.
Well, I don't think anyone on this call cares about the Fantastic Four at this point in their history.
Yes,
Here,
no one
go
knows.
listen to the Fantasticast at thefantasticast.com. And now I must return to the future and try and save the world from the after effects of Dan DiDio's Phantom Stranger.
Lacey, come back, Lacey!
Well, that was fucking weird.
Where he's going, he doesn't need roads.
My God.
Yeah. Because you can't catch Pokemon when you drive.
Or at any other point, unless you've got your Game Boy with you.
Yes, exactly. And no other system.
Okay, I don't think anyone was using Game Boys in 2011. It was like Nintendo
DS
DS.
is a thing.
Game Boy Advances, yeah.
Game Boy Advances, absolutely.
Really? Still?
Game Boy,
Yeah.
I was playing Game Boy Advances in high school.
Yeah, but 2011. They were Nintendo DS.
Okay, I thought you said that wasn't out yet. I must have misheard you.
DS was out, but people were still using Game Boy Advances.
Back at home, Peter ruminates on how he had to turn down the job with Norman Goblin Pubes Osborn, as he would have had to have worked evenings, and he needs to keep his nights free to be Spider-Man. Turning on the TV, he is confronted by J. Jonah Hitler-moustache Jameson, who is once again challenging people to prove that Spider-Man isn't a menace. Jameson declares that Spidey must be hunted and unmasked, giving an idea to both Sergei Kravinoff and Jean-Michel Dematteis. What I have learned since I wrote this is that the M stands for Michel, not Michael.
What?
Oh,
I
No,
knew it.
no, that's not true. It's John Mark DeMatteis, right?
Yes. Yes, you're right. Shit.
Is this another Eric Larson's father thing?
No, is that John Mark DeMatteis? You lying, filthy. This thing has 40 minutes to get to page 6.
Giving an idea to both
I don't
Sergei
care.
Kravinoff and Jean-Marc Dematteis. A reward of $1,000 is offered for the capture of Spider-Man. Peter is shocked. The terrible thing is, he means it. He actually means what he says. He sincerely thinks building a wall between the US and Mexico is a valuable use of our nation's resources. He sincerely thinks that I'm a threat to society. Yes, Peter Parker, the amazing Spider-Man, whose spider sense warns him of the greatest life-threatening dangers, cannot tell when J. Jonah Jameson is ranting and yelling and eulogizing and creating supervillains for 50 issues that there might be some sincerity behind his actions. He obviously has the proportional emotional retardation of a spider.
I thought he was just kidding all these issues.
I thought it was just a joke.
You and your nutty spider slayer. It was actually a spider hugger because he felt I needed more hugs.
The Black Widow.
He's like, he hates me far more than I thought, he says in that like one panel. It's like, because he's yelling about you on TV. He did that in issue 1. He's hired people that
it is
Yeah,
slightly
he got the
contrived.
FBI to swear out a warrant against him back in the first issue of the comic.
he's hired like murderers to go.
He
after
works for
him.
Jameson. He can't tell when he's being serious. That's how he doesn't know him.
I want to say about Jameson, because looking at this, obviously we're used to the Jameson now, which is a much leaner-faced Jameson. I mean, there's a reason why J.K. Simmons is the best comic book casting ever.
Right.
But this sort of bulkier one,
I think he'd make
the
a good
very
Gordon.
bright eyes. Is that how he was depicted in the comics at the time, or is that like a sort of exaggeration to highlight how Peter's feeling about it? 'Cause bear in mind, he's wearing that pubic jumper. He's going to be quite hot under the collar.
This is the Romita Jameson. Romita,
Absolutely.
He brought in both Peter's and Jameson's faces.
Because that's just kind of artist he is. But I mean, because it's Romita, it looks classic to me. It doesn't. I'm not really seeing anything like different about it. But like, it is a typically Romita Jameson. I could be
Okay.
smoking on television. that really is dated.
Oh, and I remember, I was just thinking that too. And I remember, when he drew the Spider-Man arc in Daredevil, Jameson was one of the few people from, like, the Spider-Man book that was in there too. So, like, Romita's been drawing Jameson, like, since before he was even on ASM.
Oh yeah, it was Aunt May too, right? Peter, Aunt May, and
Was May in that one?
I
I
think.
don't
I don't know.
remember.
It's
I
been a
know
few
I know
months.
Peter and Jameson were. I know that there was, like, no Betty, Ned, Liz, Flash, though.
Jen Stanley said, "Don't waste your time with those." But wasn't there a scene where like Peter was with Aunt May, like looking like he was masturbating, like grimacing at the television because Jameson was on there in Daredevil, I think.
Oh, I do vaguely remember that. I mostly remember, like, for some reason, everyone thinks that, like, Foggy Nelson is Daredevil, and Foggy, like, completely eats that up.
Of course not, Karen. After all, who could ever defeat Daredevil? Oh, Foggy, are you Daredevil? Not now, Karen. I can't say anything more about it. And then Matt's like, Jesus fucking Christ.
My friend is a complete idiot.
And this is from the guy who created his own twin brother. And if I'm saying
because of that story, that's the story that made him do it.
I remember all this.
Oh, dear. God.
We're going to go on a rant if we
No, the reason he created his own twin brother is because Peter frickin' Parker wrote a letter to his law office saying, "Hey, Matt, I know you're Daredevil, but don't worry, we're cool."
If I don't want to show
So he
this.
wrote that letter as a result of the events in like that Spider-Man story.
Okay, so yes, indirectly it's a result of that, just like, other indirect things.
Okay, we did talk. We did about this the direct episode before this, or I'm sorry, 2 episodes before this, like during the crossover. So, like, if anybody finds out this show for the first time and is listening chronologically, we've strained our lungs talking about the inanity of Mike Murdock. Then again, it does bear repeating because it is really insane.
I'm sure from Yellow to Red, the Daredevil podcast that we published in 2011, we'll get to it eventually.
Good luck with that, Tyler.
Hey, David Weeder can take it over and change the name.
With everything bearing down upon him, Peter has enough. He leaves the house, heading out into the rain, convincing himself that his activities as Spider-Man are motivated by a need for thrills and excitement, and that Jonah may be right. Peter enters an alley. He places his Spider-Man costume into a trash can and walks away.
Okay, but before he does that, I have to ask you a question. At the bottom of page 7, what is in Peter's hands? Is there anything in Peter's hands? No, there is nothing in Peter's hands.
Oh, yeah.
That means he is not carrying his Spider-Man costume, which means he is wearing his Spider-Man costume under his clothing as he goes out into the sad, rainy alleyway.
In fact, shall I read the notes that I actually wrote
There's
on?
only one thing left to do.
Peter is walking the streets of New York, racked with doubt and confusion, the rain beating down upon him. He's not carrying any bag, and as he enters the alley and does his jacket, the next panel, well, it's the famous costume in the bin image, which begs the question, did Peter strip off in the alley, climb out of his Spider-Man costume, then get dressed again, all in this torrential rainstorm? Looks like Aunt Hypochondriac Prediction May might have had a point through all these years.
I thought that maybe... Okay, there's a few explanations for this. One is that the costume's inside the jacket, because it's not a very bulky costume.
You're right, he could have a pouch in his cape.
Yeah. Okay,
Or
yeah.
coat, yeah.
Or another thing
coat,
is,
you're right.
like,
Or a splash ring.
it could be a dichotomy between the dialogue and, like, and the arts and stuff like that, because he could be walking away. No, that doesn't work. Okay, I was going to say...
Never suggest that there'd be a discrepancy between what Stanley writes and what an artist draws.
Yeah, it almost looks as though he's walking away from it, but the dialogue in the third panel on page 7 indicates that he's just about to dump it into the trash.
Well, and I was going to say that, like, the last panel in page 7 could be like another angle of the panel in page 8, but that doesn't work because of a few different reasons.
Now, was it the iconic image of it in the trash can? Wasn't that the original cover idea? I remember someone said that. I think Romita said that.
That's possible. It would make a good. It has the space at the top. It would make a good cover.
I think Romita said that once. I think we also talked about that 5 years ago.
What if? Okay, we're trying to figure out how it got in the trash with them. What if he walked there and he found it already in the trash?
Not again.
He's like, oh, well, I guess that's fate then.
He wasn't Tobey Maguire doing it, and then kind of
Harry was like cleaning the house. He's like, why does Peter have a Spider-Man costume in his room?
Because
all I
he's
know
Batman
is Spider-Man
unicorn.
sucks, so I'm throwing this out. And then Harry's like going down like outside like in the rain, like lousy Peter can't afford to pay rent but can afford to buy Spider-Man costumes. Well,
Is this a Vin
him.
Gonzalez reference?
No.
Who?
He's suggesting that Aunt May throwing the costume out is a more natural reaction to that JMS issue of Spidey, where she comes in and sees Peter half naked, exhausted on the bed with a Spider-Man costume on, and definitely doesn't think sex pervert.
Oh yeah, in fairness, he was all beaten up, which kind of cinched the conclusion.
Well, and Aunt May's had enough like clues over the years that she could have put 2 and 2 together.
Well, yeah, it's it took an actress to put 2 and 2 together.
Yeah, no, that wasn't a Vin Gonzalez reference, but well done for remembering Vin Gonzalez.
Yeah,
No one else remembers him.
Even in 2011, he was kind of history too.
He's haven't seen since like that like anthology issue, right? Where Harry beat him up.
It was the end of Brand New Day. He came back, and then Harry beat him up and said, "I never think about my son."
Any other thoughts on this final scene?
Well, I mean, I
It's
love the.
great.
Peter's not
Sorry,
wearing
we'll do that
socks.
again.
No, he's not. No, I don't mean to interrupt, but I mean, we're kind of making fun of it as we always do with this comic book series. But I mean, it's a fantastic image. It's such a great idea of like an iconic costume being treated in such a disrespectful way by its own creator. Like it's still over 60 years later, or I guess 50. It's still very, very effective.
And using the knowledge I've gained since we first talked about this, with looking at lots and lots of Marvel comics from the 60s and 70s, I love the cross-hatching in the background, something I would never have thought of 5 years ago. It's very scratchy and loose. We think of cross-hatching, we think of like the 90s when it's all that very meticulous inking job. But here it's almost as if it's scribbled in, but it's done with the knowledge of exactly where each bit of ink's going and the effect it's going to give. It's fantastically moody and atmospheric. It's a very dark page. It's a very, even the position of the camera angle, you kind of get the feeling of New York pushing down on you. And it's absolutely glorious from an art perspective.
Yeah, this evokes the 60s Bashki cartoon very well, which had a very moody, noirish, which I loved. It's kind of like that 60s blues heroin era of New York. And no, yeah, the low angle is a good observation, because you see the bottle and the matches on the ground next to the trash can. It's like, yeah, everything's above, and like it kind of focuses, the whole idea of Spider-Man as something to be kind of just tossed away.
And then the other note that I had on this is some of the dialogue or the thought balloon, on this page, I absolutely adore. I was just a young and thinking teenager when I first became Spider-Man, but the years have a way of slipping by, of changing the world about us. And I think that's really important for this 50th issue, because at this point in the Marvel Universe, and at least for another 6 years, the idea is the Marvel Universe has progressed in real time. So it's been 4.5 years since Peter became Spider-Man, and he's grown up and he's gone through that. And this is before we get the idea of the sliding timescale of everything being compressed into what it's normally about 10 or 11 years since the Fantastic Four make their appearance. Isn't that how Marvel sees it, sort of unofficially?
Well, the Thing had a bar mitzvah because it had been 13 years since he became the Thing. That was Aaron Slott's.
Wait a second. What are you saying? It's another decade till they show up?
According to the timeline, how long have they been the Fantastic Four?
Oh, okay. Yeah. Because Spider-Man's timeline is like give or take 15 years.
Yeah, and it's been retconned.
Whenever they do start playing with time for a while, what they're going to do is continue to act like everything's moving in real time, but no one's getting any older. Like referring to events as happening 1967 calendar date, even though it's 1975. But no, of course, people are not 10 years older.
And there aren't many sort of moments that pin comics to an actual specific date.
I can bring one up right now. Like in ASM 122, it's like to Jameson, well, if it isn't Mr. Charisma 1973.
But more specifically, there's the Ramona Fradon issue of Fantastic Four, which I think is Jerry Conway's first. It takes place New Year's Eve, coming into 1973.
Well, they also talked to Nixon in that comic.
There are a few talking to Nixons, but it's very rare to be incredibly specific.
And the Captain America comic where Nixon fights Captain America.
Which is also the ending of Black Dynamite.
But yeah, I absolutely love that.
Sorry, go ahead.
Just another comparison, because at the time of recording this, I believe Teenage Wasteland was still an ongoing concern. But Ultimate Peter Parker, whose 160-issue career as Spider-Man, takes place charitably over 18 months, because you get to the halfway point, which is the Hobgoblin arc, and they go, it's only been 9 months. And everyone goes, what?
Yeah, that's insane to me. I don't know why Bendis did that.
Yeah.
Because they had like multiple senior skip days, and
he never graduated.
The school years went by very naturally, but there was more than a school year between the beginning of the series and that 9 months mark.
Yeah.
Like, was he ever a junior in high school?
He never will be.
No, he's back and gone
Spoilers.
again.
They never explained that. Yeah. That was
yes,
frustrating.
The The thing I've written here is the poor bastard never got to graduate from high school or even get further than second base, and this is assuming he gets an off-panel grope in Amazing Spider-Man in Ultimate Spider-Man Annual Number 3.
An off-panel group, hopefully by Mary Jane, you mean?
Yeah, that was the Mary Jane and
No,
underwear issue.
If the lights are off, he reaches out and he just says, "Oh, Peter."
It's Piggy's groped him?
And he dated well done. And he dated Carnage.
In fact, his hand goes through a time warp and gropes on the Trouble era.
It's a rather high concept.
Yeah.
It's too bad that Bendis never got to bring in Ultimate Skip.
You've got to bring Trouble into it somehow. So I'm saying his off-panel grope was with his teenage aunt, back when she was getting pregnant with him.
Have y'all read Trouble?
I still have not read Trouble.
Christ, no. I remember it was on the shelves not long after I started buying comics. I remember looking at the covers and going, what the hell? Because there were two Marvel books with really unique covers. One was Trouble, and the other was the Bruce Jones Incredible Hulk run, which had those Peter bag covers, where like you'd have the cover of the comic looked like a box of cereal with the Hulk. They were Hulkos or something like that, and just these weird, crazy covers. And then you read the comic and went, "Oh yeah, this is shit."
I had no idea that Terry Dodson did that artwork, which made it even more appalling.
Yeah, it's not a good book.
But like in terms of images from Amazing Spider-Man to this point, what compares to this image? Was it like the Ditko Master Planner lifting the crap over his head? Does that come close?
In terms of iconic, yeah, I'd say so. Okay. I mean, the only other iconic images that I could really iconic that I can think of is him holding the burglar in Amazing Fantasy 15 when he was an 18-year-old high school senior. You know, retcons be damned.
Well, I mean, I think that like the Spidey Strikes Back one that they use over and over again for the cartoon comes close, but I think that I feel that because I heard about this story way before I heard about the Master Planner story, so I think that this is probably the most. I mean, those definitely come close, but I think this is the most popular image in Spider-Man canon.
There's a reason why this image was recreated almost exactly for Spider-Man 2. I don't think it was raining in that scene. It's been a long time since I've seen it.
There was lightning, but I don't remember it raining.
But I mean, you almost feel like Spider-Man 2 from Peter Parker's story progression. Raimi starts with this issue, works backwards. Raimi starts with this image. He works backwards from it, as in how do I get to this point, and then works forward from it. But it feels like that is the key moment in that entire film for Peter Parker, and it's very right that they should use this image.
No, it was a terrific adaptation, and
No, Raimi did that because he was copying Superman 2, which came out decade, after Spider-Man 50.
to the point where the movie adapts the very next scene.
Anyway, some enterprising young whippersnapper quickly snatches the costume and runs all the way to Jameson's office, rushing past Betty emotionally balanced Brandt, and bursting in to show old Flat Top his server-first epic loot. That's the Warcraft reference.
Yeah, World of Warcraft.
And he gets a free copy of the paper for his efforts, because Jameson is generous and giving employer. The Bugle quickly prints up its latest edition, bearing the headline, "Is Spider-Man Through?"
Which is not spelled correctly technically for a national newspaper.
Really, it's not. I mean, you would not do that on a headline.
It's not spelled
Ned Leeds wrote it.
It's not even what through means in that sense. You don't use through for being done and spell it that way. You use through for going through something, and you spell it that way.
That's the slang way.
Okay, here's something that wouldn't really fly nowadays unless it was a latchkey kid. This kid is able to go into a major metropolitan newspaper, go to the editorial offices, and give this with no adult in sight supervising this thing.
I mean, you figure he ran through the entire bullpen. All the various imaginary people out there banging away on typewriters and trying to make layouts and everything else. He ran through all of that to get to here.
Well, clearly the security they have is only Brady Brand.
No adult in sight, though, like with the kid who let him go into the big city by himself where, bad things happen.
Well, if you remember Spider-Man 2, I think Brant brought the guy who brought the costume in instead of him busting in through the door.
It was a homeless guy, yeah.
And you got to be careful because in New York you have people taking off their clothes in alleys and stuff.
Yeah. In fact, does that mean that the kid was in the alley watching Peter I've just finished reading Transmetropolitan. There's just a very different spin on it from that point of view.
He looks like that kid that was in all those 90s movies, like Stuart Little and Jerry Maguire and
Somebody Lipnicki.
Yeah, like John Lipnicki.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like he was on Family Guy recently. Like they're like, let's get that cute kid from the movies, and then like Peter sees him and he's like, he grew up. He's ugly.
I remember that.
I like to think, you know how when Mark Millar writes Marvel comics, he sort of has little bits that tie things together, like the Wolverine and the baby from the end of Old Man Logan is the Wolverine and the baby in his Fantastic Four, the future thing, and there's something connected with 1985.
Yeah.
You're vaguely aware of that. Well, I like to think that there's characters that follow me from podcast guest appearance to podcast guest appearance. Therefore, John, that's a slightly older version of the Orphan from Superman #3.
Okay.
He's crossed companies, gone 20 years without aging, but that's him.
Well, it's not the last time we're going to have somebody cross companies in this story, but that's not till issue 52.
Well, he's an orphan, so that's why he has no parents. And he knows. He's like, if I give Jonah this Spider-Man costume, he'll adopt me on the spot. I just know it. And it didn't work.
No, it
worked
didn't.
well for one of the Spider Girls.
Yeah, it did.
Was one of the Spider Girls adopted by Jonah?
Yeah, he adopted Maddie Franklin, didn't he?
And she was murdered.
Right, yeah. Nobody
which is never talked about.
And then, like, a month or two after she was murdered, Marla and Jonah get back together and make no mention of, didn't we used to have a kid? Yeah, it's okay. And then,
I remember that from one of the Alias trades where she's being used as a source for MGH and James has to go and eat humble pie and get Jessica Jones to investigate. So, and there's some really good, talking about the fact that he's got this kid and then Marla knows that she's Spider-Girl and can't tell Jonah because of the pride and various things. So it felt like there was a really strong bond there. But no, the Cravens murder her, and that's fine.
Well, and then Marla dies a few months later, and when Marla dies, Jonah like changes the city and like tells Robbie to do all these like tributes for her and stuff. And it's like, so no mention of Maddie Franklin at all. And then like a month or two later, Betty Brant's in the hospital, and Jonah once again goes crazy, like, first my wife, now Betty. It's like, you had a kid,
Betty was like a daughter to me because I don't have any daughters, any at all.
Poor Maddie Franklin.
I was like,
she never had a funeral. They buried Kane.
She didn't get a funeral, and like the sad thing was, like, it wasn't like she was captured and killed in one issue. Like, she was held hostage for months.
Oh yeah, she was taken like in 600, wasn't she?
Nobody knew she was missing.
Turns out whenever they went to the adoption agency, this red bird flew down and caused a whole bunch of havoc. And now they never did adopt Maddie Franklin, and that whole connection has been erased.
Well, she wasn't adopted, like, randomly. She's one of Marla's, like, nieces or something.
Don't correct me when I'm wrong.
Or else you will be corrected in future.
Okay, we're never going to get through this issue. Continue, Stephen.
Wait, you mean say that tangents and procrastination is something you guys don't want on this podcast?
No, just that one's over. We're going to keep going now.
Is Spider-Man through?
Yeah, so New York is abuzz with the copy of the Daily Bugle, which is like its best-selling issue ever. And apparently it's done really well on digital as well, although we're not announcing how many figures, and only through our own app. And, yeah, screw you, DC. And everyone's just going crazy about it, and they've obviously never read Amazing Spider-Man, I want to say 19, where Spidey quit.
Right.
Because they can't believe that he would ever quit, even though he already did it.
And actually, my theory is that guy back there that says, that web-slinging wonder would never quit, someone must have beaten him. That's Flash Thompson. Because he never actually went off to Vietnam.
No, he doesn't.
He's just mailing. He just travels out somewhere near an army base to mail a letter so it's got a postmark on it, and then travels back.
I'm pretty sure that's exactly what happens because he left 2 issues or 3 issues ago, and he's going to be back in 2 issues, and yeah, he never actually made it to Viet Cong.
And he comes back a lot.
Yeah.
Because he gets tired of sleeping on the streets. He has to pretend to come home.
Nobody's allowed to come home that much.
From Vietnam.
Aren't you in the jungle somewhere and you can't get out?
His travels back and forth inspired Air Miles.
Yes.
Anyway, Jameson is popping up on talk shows a lot, and that's Johnny Carson on the top, isn't it?
Yeah, that's Johnny Carson.
Because I don't know what he looks like. Don't know. I just know nothing about the guy except that he was big a long time ago.
It's actually a pretty good likeness. The guy in the green suit's a pretty good likeness to Johnny Carson.
Okay, cool. So he hits the talk shows. He's linking his loot wherever he goes, which is the Warcraft version of going around going, hey, look at this, it's amazing. So he's taking the costume with him. But in the meantime, we've got the Kingpin, a.k.a. Wilson Big Boned Fisk, popping up, making his first appearance.
I'm not fat, I'm big bone.
Exactly.
Oh, we should do the Carbon voice for Wilson Fisk, because there's no way we can pull off Roscoe Brown.
This is the moment
we've been waiting for. With Spider-Man gone, my plans cannot reach fruition.
Where is it?
What are you doing?
I was looking for that bit from Born Again where it's like a man without fear is to doing the Cartman voice. Can't get you just know you're Frank Miller.
A man without hope is a man without fear.
That's the one. Thank you.
And I have shown him.
So I couldn't just go for, I'm the Kingpin. Yeah, first appearance of the Kingpin, and it's an ass shot.
Not really
There's the rest of his back. There's the rest of his back as well.
It has to be a shower scene, and then I look at the John Romita senior art, and I say, absolutely. It absolutely did.
Oh, yes.
Have we even covered what he's doing yet? I can't remember where I got to in the sentence. He's gazing out of a window, deciding that Spider-Man's absence gives him the perfect opportunity to bring his plans to fruition.
Oh, yes.
I did have some notes about the Kingpin for his first appearance, but he gets like 5 panels this book, so I'm going to save him for next week. Or indeed next episode if you're not Josh, John, or Don.
Even if you are, it's still next episode.
Yeah.
All 329 of you, according to Facebook.
They're all Josh, Don, or John. Out on the street, Patch the stool pigeon notices that the biggest mobsters on the east side are getting together. He retreats to form his own plans. Inside the meeting, the Kingpin's lieutenant informs the Hoods that the Kingpin is ready to take over as the head man of the mobs. And in the Kingpin's first appearance, we have the typical Kingpin scenario, which is he's either making a play for power or the opposite version, he's losing it. And in this case, he's making a play for power. And that's pretty much every Kingpin story ever. He's either going up or he's coming down.
True.
That's what she said.
Pretty much. I read a lot of Bendis Daredevil over the summer, and like throughout Bendis's run to the end of Brubaker's run, there's about like 3 or 4 different like scenarios where it's like the Kingpin, he's coming back, and I'm like, oh, we're doing this again.
Yeah, it does get a bit samey.
But in retrospect, best police order ever.
Yes, yeah. Well, that was pre-Police Order. Police Order was Bronze Age.
What did I say? Don't correct? No, just kidding.
Stop retconning his life.
Patch goes back to his apartment where he removes his mask and reminds his empty apartment that he is really Hitler. Oh, wait, wrong book. He's really Frederick Boswell.
The big man.
The big man, as his wife calls him.
He probably has a wacky roommate that he's talking to.
Mirror there,
Mr.
so it could be just like,
Frederick, you're late again.
but there is absolutely no reason why he should say this line. Not a man alive knows that I'm really Frederick Foswell.
Yeah, because if there's not a roommate, who's he talking to?
Well, maybe his roommate is like an undead person or something.
Or a woman.
Bennett Brandt.
And not a man alive. Isn't that right, roommate Liz Allen?
Oh, this would be like in Macbeth.
I couldn't agree with you more.
A man not of woman born.
Yeah. Or reminds me of Return of the King. I am no man.
I am no man.
On my ox.
She chopped his head off like Phil Urich style.
Really sucks that Miranda Otter's not going to be Brianna in the second Game of Thrones, because I think she'd be amazing as her. But anyway.
I only saw the first episode. Haven't seen the rest of it yet.
Oh, so you've not read the books either?
I'm halfway through the first book.
Oh, okay. Any of you guys read or seen it? No, I've just lost you.
I'm not.
I can't because I'm only up to 2007 in my watching TV and reading project.
I'm going to pee on you, sir.
The next day, the self-confessed gone straight two-bit reporter heads into the Bugle office, planning to return to his position as the king of crime. For, as the caption box reminds us, he used to be called the Big Man, and not just by girls he hired for the night. Jameson proudly displays his loot, which he has stashed in the bank, lest he accidentally sells it to a vendor. I mean, he's had it framed on his wall. So I'm a recovering World of Warcraft-aholic. And recovering poorly. Peter Parker arrives and announces that he's quitting as a photographer to focus on his studies. Which of all the moves that he makes in this book, this is one that makes no sense. It is his only source of income. And yes, he mainly does that by lying and cheating his way through it. But
well, later on, he does say that say that he was going to take a Norman Osborn's science job.
But he hasn't decided yet. He muses on it later on in the book. He hasn't decided yet.
Oh yeah.
He doesn't have to think things through.
New York succumbs to a crime wave, heralded by a giant pair of guns hovering over the scene of any crime. The lack of web-related crime foliage convinces the Kingpin that Spider-Man truly has retired. So again, we have Kingpin gets...
What?
The Fantastic Four! Thor! Like, everyone's in this city. It's like, well, we have one less superhero, so obviously we can take over. Like,
yeah, where's Daredevil?
Where the hell are they? Anyway,
Fantastic Four might be stuck in the negative zone. Thor might be stuck in the Daredevil is around somewhere, both Matt and Mike.
Spider-Man deserves his first crack at these guys, so that's why they're not doing anything.
No, we wait.
Don't worry, Bruce Wayne. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Like, why does, like, New York's crime wave begin and end with Spider-Man? That's like...
Kingpin vows to run the crime gangs of New York like a business, with himself as chairman of the board.
Awesome.
It's another day again, and Gwen, hey, I found my eyes. Stacy rushes up to Peter with a letter from Flash, Legs for Life Thompson, who is preparing to ship out to Vietnam. Sorry, that was the most tasteless one that I've got.
No, that was not the most tasteless one. We've done tasteless ones before this.
She straddles Peter's mighty throbbing engine and is ridden all the way home.
Nice.
Wait, that did sound needlessly euphemistic. Peter gives her a lift home on his motorbike.
And Peter looks at that letter from Flash and says to Gwen, "He really turns you on, doesn't he, Gwen?" And she says, "Face it, classmate. How many blustering blondes wouldn't find a hip, handsome, foot-soled football hero totally repulsive?"
Where are you going with this?
I'm not going anywhere. I'm just reading the line. Continue with your recap, Mr. Lacey.
You thought it was over, folks.
The two flirt, unable to admit their attraction to each other, thus proving that not being a superhero doesn't counteract being socially awkward. Back at the Parker household, Aunt No Funny Nickname May has made a full recovery, which again has no relationship to Peter's decision to stop being Spider-Man, although it's a big tick in the not being a hero column if you want to associate the two. After a quick flirtation with Mary Jane, he races across town to lounge around in his apartment reading a book. That book is important. It has a red spine. Unfortunately, the radio comes on with news of a robbery of a welfare office. Concerned over the implications that much welfare money going missing, Peter jumps off the sofa and rips off his shirt before remembering that he's a member of Superheroes Anonymous and that he can't help. In fact, he actually says, hold on, next page, actually says, yeah, you just took the pledge, which, you know, it's a bit different from joining an actual addiction group.
Right.
Just a little.
Just a little bit.
Hey, Parker, hold it, you chowderhead. You just took the pledge, remember? Your web slinging days are gone forever. Simmer down, sweetie.
You can read about it in the paper, but without pictures.
But he won't read about it in the paper. Harry will.
Yes.
Harry will do anything to, like, get Peter's attention.
Yeah, so the next morning, Harry is reading the paper with what appears to be the headline, Indini Muder.
Houdini murder.
Why not? It is the Bugle. I'm just squinting at it there. So I guess Jonah's still recovering from his incident at the office, and he's just randomly typing things out. Osborn tries to make conversation about the crime wave, but Peter changes the subject by bringing up Norman Goblin Pubes Osborn, which leads to a discussion on the job offer, which Peter is now considering. At ESU, Peter meets Gwen again, only to find out that she's on a date with Harry that evening. Is that a date? Are they actually dating?
Yes.
No. They're not dating.
They're just going on a date.
No, they're not. No, it's Gwen and Harry are not dating.
It's just a joke between her and Peter.
Right.
Yeah, it's all a
Just like there's a joke between me and Josh where he says something like that and I flip him off.
I mean, look at Gwen. She has a big old smile on her face.
She always had a smile on her face. Even when she was being raped by Norman, she had a smile on her face.
No, she didn't.
And she wasn't raped. It was consensual. And why am I defending that?
I'm trying to defend that.
No one defends sins past. No one on this show.
When Goblin Baby Mama Stacy.
So Peter starts to realise basically that the world has moved on a little without him, and the time that he has for his friends is not matched by the time that they have for him. On his way home, Peter spies a security guard being attacked on top of the warehouse building. As he's the only one around, he leaps into action.
It says warehouse.
I know.
Yeah, that's what I was pointing out. It's branded warehouse. It is a warehouse.
Branded by William Dozier.
It's the warehouse, registered trademark warehouse.
We actually have a chain of shops in the UK called Warehouse, and presumably their stock is stored somewhere. He's the only one around, so he leaps into action. He scales the building, assaults the two attackers. He's moving fast enough to avoid being seen or recognised, at the point where he won't even look at the security guard to check that he's okay after he's beaten up the attackers. Minutes later, down at the waterfront, Peter wonders about what's happened, how he abandoned his plans and pledges when someone's life was in danger. He realises that the guard looked like Uncle Ben, which is interesting because he leapt into action from about 5 stories below. So he's obviously got the well-known spider telescopic vision there. And he has flashbacks to the relevant panels of Amazing Fantasy number 15, but redrawn by Ring-a-Ding Ramita. Flashback over, so we're skipping about 3 pages there because I think we know what happens. I'll give you a hint. Ben dies.
Yeah, with the point that, last time he shirked his responsibilities as Spider-Man, Ben Parker died. So that's the moral of this story.
No, the last time he shirked his responsibilities as Spider-Man, Flash decided to behave like an idiot and get himself beaten up.
Right.
That's why Flash comes to visit in these next coming issues. Like, he's either in an alley somewhere or he's in Vietnam, and the daily bugle hits and it says Spider-Man no more, and he's like, I know what I must do, and he leaves. He leaves the battlefield, and people are firing shots, and then Flash, what are you doing? And the whole platoon
Get the hell back here.
Can we get
the whole platoon blows up.
Can we get Kurt Busiek to do a special Untold Tales of Spider-Man issue, which is just Flash living his life, going around the world, and every time he sees that Spider-Man's quit, he starts to get long-haul flights all the way back, sort of arrives 2 weeks later, the exact Spider-Man costume, and then he sees him swing overhead and go, nope, too late, and just heads back on with his life. Flashback over, Peter realises that he can never renounce being Spider-Man, as he could never let an innocent die because Spider-Man failed to act. I seem to remember there was I won't talk about Superman, he's a twat. But the big problem I have with him saying something like that, yes, it's sort of noble and it's shot from underneath him, so it makes him look big and proud and strong, and it's a pivotal moment, but let's face it, New York's a big place, and there's lots of other heroes. So he could retire, and the Fantastic Four or Daredevil or later on Iron Fist and Power Man and all the other people could do the job for him.
But obviously not, because while he was out for those few days, Kingpin took over.
Yeah. But also, anytime something happens, Peter's going to get hit with the mother of all guilt trips.
True.
Oh my God, there was an automobile accident and I wasn't Spider-Man. Oh my God, a kid dropped his ice cream cone and I wasn't Spider-Man.
And as he's saying this on this dock, it's the camera actually, pans to under the dock where that little John Licknicky boy is sitting under there with this shocked expression on his face.
We really needed some big ironic tragedy in Amazing Spider-Man 185 so that afterwards he could say, oh no, while I was boinking Betty Brant, I should have been Spider-Man.
He boinks her in 89, just for the record.
That's what I said.
So we're now back with the Kingpin, and at its headquarters, Frederick Foswell has abandoned his patch persona and goes right to Fisk, explaining that he used to be the big man and that he should be the one in Kingpin's shoes. His arrogant offer to make the Kingpin his lieutenant offends the Kingpin, as you might expect. He attacks Foswell with his laser pointer walking stick and tells a goon to put him on ice for a while.
Taken from Craven's nipples.
It's the same technology.
Craven had laser nipples.
You haven't been listening to the show.
Oh boy, yes he did.
You missed an entire
Been listening to the show, just not closely.
Okay, yeah, Craven in issue 47 and 49, was it?
Yeah.
The 49 coverage hasn't been released as we're recording this, but yeah, in issue 47, the lion vest that he wears would shoot lasers out of the eyes. Yes.
Yes. Well, 47 is that's the Deadpool one, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I remember that. That gets the piss taken out of it quite heavily in the Deadpool version of it. So we're nearly at the end of the issue. Peter scales the outside of the Daily Bugle building and breaks into Jonah's office. And in fact, he does that. He shoots around his neck. There they are. I couldn't quite see him. He changes it into a Spider-Man costume and then basically waits there until Jonah decides to wander in, which, considering it's the middle of the night, he could have been there for hours waiting for the next morning Jonah in.
Which is kind of creepy if you think about it.
Yeah. That's really asking for further harassment from Jonah, isn't it?
I could just imagine like a montage of like Peter like, do I sit on the chair and twirl around when he walks in? Should I be leaning against the wall? You know,
bring out, grab an alley cat so I can stroke it.
No, what happens is Jonah, like, he's still getting dressed, so when Jonah comes in, Spider-Man's like putting his pants on. It looks like Spider-Man's mooning him. He's like, "Why I never?" Oh, hi, JJ.
There's a very prescient line in the middle, the third panel on the page, where he talks about recruiting. He goes, "You heard me. I'm signing up volunteers. I'm gonna fill the whole city with Spider-Man."
Know where you're going with this?
And Warren's just sitting in the outer office going, "Whole city with Spider-Man. Ooh, that's an idea. I'll make a note of that."
Secret Origins.
I thought you were making like a Batman reference. The Spider-Man of Africa, the Spider-Man of Cambodia, the Spider-Man of...
No, it's New York City Island full of Spider-Man. That's a Secret Origins of Spider Island.
Dan Slott is reading his like Marvel Tales version of this. Wow, a whole city of Spider-Man.
Spidey's back. He's back in action, and as far as the world's concerned, they better believe it.
Because if they don't...
And how?
I'm just flipping through because on that next to the last page, we saw Spider-Man climbing up the wall, or rather Peter Parker climbing up the wall with his shoes around his neck.
Yeah.
I'm not entirely sure we've seen that before.
I was about to say, I mean, that comes back a lot in the future, but I find there's a very distinctive Romita artistic little bit of storytelling.
I mean, it's hard to be certain because we don't actually have a lot of occasions where Peter Parker is climbing a wall without being Spider-Man. So as I'm flipping through back issues, I'm actually having a hard time finding a case to compare it to.
Was this the first time where the idea that he can climb walls better without his shoes addressed?
Well, that's what I'm saying. This is the first we've ever seen him doing it without his shoes on. So that would suggest that.
Well, of course, strictly speaking, he shouldn't be climbing walls with his shoes on at all.
Which I think is a better idea than the Spider-Man movie thing of like, oh, there's hairs on his hands and feet, because really this is a very comic book level. I don't think I've seen him in any of the cartoons or anything where he needs his leather shoes off in order to climb walls.
Right.
Which always makes me question like the material of his boots.
Right. Just how thick are those soles?
Mm-hmm. And sometimes Alex Ross will make them like really like socks kind of thing. You can kind of see the curvature of his feet whenever he's swinging. So it goes from artist to artist.
Okay. Well, thank you for that recap. Or did we finish? We finished, right?
Yeah, we finished.
Yeah, I was going to make a joke here. You wouldn't see any curvature of the feet if Liefeld was drawing him, but that just seemed too easy.
So, going back through the issue, because, I mean, when I first read this as first appearance of the Kingpin, I didn't think it was all that much because it's, he's not really in it very much.
It's very much a part one, isn't it?
My first note is on the very first page where they misspelled Mickey DeMeo as the inker, but that's not really that important.
Did they?
Yeah.
Did he not have an E?
Alias.
It should be DEMEO.
Oh, cool.
And Nicky was DeMeo.
The first scene opens up with a bunch of action, which is pretty cool because most of this issue is very, lacking in Spider-Man action. So I thought it was kind of ingenious of them to just, throw us into a fight at the beginning. So we do get some superhero fisting. Some superhero fighting.
Fisticuffs.
Fisticuffs. There we go.
I will say that though that I think this is sort of like it's an everyday kind of action scene, but for a normal, not that important action sequence, it's really really well drawn.
I
think
very dynamic.
I love the scene where he's like just pushing the guys away and slamming them with the door. I think that's really cool. That's a really just a really great fight scene. I genuinely do. I think that's a very surprising level of choreography with this kind of thing.
I wish they hadn't got the mismatch between the dialogue and the art on the flipping panel, because that would have been a really cool thing as well. It's not often that when you think of Spider-Man, you don't necessarily think of his agility, and you think of the fact that he can do web stuff, but you don't necessarily think that he's got the speed as well. It's sort of one of the less well-known bits of it as well. So it's nice to sort of see that.
You also see these 3 issues have horrible exposition. He flipped back. You missed him. Like, in the heat of battle, no villain would like make the time to say that.
Right. I mean, and also it's very plain from the art. There's Spider-Man flipping. We have motion lines. We have the line of the gunshot. We have it not hitting Spider-Man. So we don't need that kind of over-exposition there.
Right.
Well, everyone like does like Frederick Foswell walking into his apartment. Like, little does people know that the Patch is really me, Frederick. I don't like go walking home. Like, little do people realize that I, Joshua Lafferbertoni, am about to heat up my dinner, and it's gonna be good. I'll show them. I'll show them all.
No man on earth shall know that I count my toilet paper squares.
only scant few people know that really in reality Donovan Morgengren is the podcaster Donovan Morgengren.
It's like whenever Doc
God,
Brown
no
takes
one out
off
there
his...
knows that I'm British.
Oh, that's not the only time we're going to be talking about bad secret identities tonight. Or
However,
tonight. I'm so used to saying tonight.
You don't hear me?
So it'll soon be tonight for me.
I do want to pull out the grammar bit again, despite the iTunes review that we got, which we haven't read yet, but we will. Down there at the bottom of page 2, whenever Spider-Man attacks the bad guys, he says, "Us Spider-Man don't demolish that easy." It should be "we Spider-Man," but we Spider-Man, I should say. And we mentioned earlier Peter Parker driving around without a helmet.
I'll put that joke in again.
Okay, they are going to get a letter about the fact that he's riding around without a helmet, because that is becoming a safety concern. It's not a law yet, but it's definitely a safety concern, awareness at this point in time.
Because Fonzie has ruined the lives of people and children in America.
This is pre-Fonzie. Oh, this is post-Fonzie era, but like Happy Days isn't out.
Because Fonzie is a real person in the Marvel universe.
Of course he is.
Peter has like helmet-looking hair.
Well, Marvel had that Happy Days comic series that ran for 170 issues or so.
They must have had a Marvel team up with the Fonz. They did it with the original Not Ready for Primetime Players.
Right, but we're not entirely sure that should have happened.
yeah, they had to fight Laverne and Shirley because they were like possessed by symbiotes or something, and
Now, see, the thing is, this actually was a regular thing for Superman in the 50s. I mean, he got Orson Welles in his comic. He did a pop singer. I forget who all he teamed up with.
He had a game show host as well.
Yes.
I know what you're talking about.
Not Pat Boone, was it?
It was Pat Boone.
Yeah, it was Pat Boone. He's on the cover.
Dude! Stop Pat Boone from making a song with Lois Lane, or else they'll kill us all.
Oh, dude, there was a funny letter to that like Lois Lane comic with Pat Boone. Like, somebody said, like, "How dare Pat Boone sing with Lois Lane? You know, Pat Boone's married, and this adulterous act will not stand." And then DC was like talking about like all these other like singers who happen to be married that sing with women, and like how singing with a woman is not like cheating.
Up at the top of page 4, whenever Peter's all bemoaning his situation, everyone flips over the FF. They think Daredevil's the coolest. Captain America turns them on. And Captain America turns me on. Doesn't he turn you on?
No,
I've gotten a few stiffies for Captain America, sure.
And how long ago was May's last attack? Has there been one since Master Planner?
I don't think so. I think this is the first one that's like really, really like inconsequential. Because I think she's fine in the next appearance.
I don't even know if it's
pages later.
Would you consider it an attack? She's just like laying.
Define an attack. Like an attack from what? Her body. I mean, I understand what they're saying.
Attack
But
from Josh just got himself into the comic.
I'm just looking through the dialogue again to see exactly what it says. What'd you say, Stephen?
I was about to say that was one of the jokes that we recorded. Was it? Josh building the machine to go into the comic and kill.
Oh yeah. No, she's sick because of us. We retcon Spider-Man history.
Well,
But, like,
if you read the dialogue, Anna actually says, like, you know, that, like, this was all because Peter didn't answer the phone. And even if he wasn't being Spider-Man, you know, like, if he was at a study group at, you know, Gwen Stacy's house, or, you know, or at the coffee bean with Harry, or out socializing.
she doesn't put the blame on him, does she?
No, but she said she doesn't do it directly, but I mean, read the dialogue for that page. Like she said,
kept
like
calling for you, wondering where you were. She was so worried.
I think that would be
after,
after whatever it was that happened. She started calling for Peter. That's how I read it.
Time's up. About to punch my ticket. Peter.
She's resting now. Blah blah blah. She kept calling for you, wondering where you were. She was so worried.
Yeah, I don't think she's trying to say because you actually have a life, Betty, or not Betty. It's another reference.
That too.
Oh.
Because you have a life, Aunt May was dying. I don't think that's the idea. I think it's just because she was worried about you, and Peter has to feel guilty.
That does come back later in the issue, though, where when Peter stops by, let me find the exact quote because I hate flipping through. Yeah, here we go.
What page?
Page. It says 14 on like the thing. Peter says, Peter comes in, you know, like talking about Cary Grant or something, and Anna Watson says, I told you he'd be here right after class, May, dear. Now, if Donovan was running late to the recording, and I said, don't worry, John, he'll be here, and then Don showed up, I wouldn't say, see, I told you he was coming, but you imagine that, you imagine that this is something that Anna had to tell May a dozen times. Including, like, May say, no, he's gone. He's probably in a motorcycle accident somewhere bleeding out. Because for someone to say, I told you he was coming, it usually means that this was something that, like, had to be reminded of.
She needed reassuring.
Yeah, countless times.
I read it a little bit differently, but I'll leave it be, because it's...
Well, how do you read it?
Because, like, okay, so she was sick. And she was sick and she was worried for Peter. Peter came and Peter went while she was sleeping. So she wakes up and Peter's still not there. And, you know, she's old and she's not feeling well and she's worried about, you know, where Peter is if he hasn't been there.
And she's stupid.
And she's a bit stupid and off her rocker. I think this version of May Parker is actually quite a bit senile. And
oh really?
Yeah, just a little bit. And so, you know, Watson, hello Watson. So Anna does have to like reassure her a couple times that Peter did say he was coming right over. And so whenever he finally shows up, Anna's like, see? And of course there's also the whole thing that we've had the last couple episodes about how like Anna is getting kind of tired of May. And like all of May's incessant worrying, Anna's sort of losing patience with it. She used to be an enabler. And now she's getting kind of pissed.
After only a couple of issues.
Yeah.
Now she's got to live with it.
Right. Now she realizes just how badly Peter had it.
Okay, so I have a note on page 5 where Peter is moping about Aunt May. And on the third panel, he says, I've got a rough exam tomorrow, but there's no use trying to study. I'd never be able to concentrate. Not now. I don't know how... Speaking as somebody who was in college and yuck, I don't know if I... totally buy that he's so worried he chooses not to study. I can see the idea behind it, but I don't see how practical that is in an actual thought process. I don't know what you think about that, John.
No, it really isn't. I mean, if you have the time to study and you have an exam that you need to prepare for, then you try. Even if it means that you're staring at just like the same 2 or 3 pages until you're too sleepy to pay any more attention, you still try.
Yeah,
I mean, you're paying for college, right? Of course, he's on a scholarship, so he probably isn't thinking about that. But most of us out there were paying for college.
I mean, if my mom was sick and I came in my room and like, you know, well, my dad's been telling me that my mom's been really sick lately. I have this gender society exam tomorrow, but there's no use trying to study now. I mean, that sounds stupid to me, and I don't think it's a culture thing. I think I actually kind of think that's a weakness in Stan's writing because I can't imagine anybody thinking like that.
I could see Peter, though, because, like, when Peter worries, he worries, like, 20 times as hard as we do.
That is true.
Like, Peter would be, like, reading, like, okay, so the French Revolution, just like French toast, just like the French toast that Aunt May used to make for me. Aunt May, oh, how I've let her down, how I let Uncle Ben down. Holy crap, I've been studying for 2 hours, and I haven't gotten past the title page.
Now I can believe it.
We already talked quite a bit about the actual quitting of being Spider-Man, but I just want to reiterate. I mean, look at page 6. You know, with Jonah being so sinister on the TV show, and that last panel with the undershading from Peter, it's actually a rather Gil Kane kind of pose there.
Good job. I agree.
And then just all the stress and craziness going through his mind. It's a little bit out of nowhere that he's reacting this strongly to everything, so we kind of have to swallow that. But as long as you have some butter, it's okay.
It is, but you can buy. I mean, I know what you mean, but the way the story's been up to this point is it's not like, you know, all of a sudden he feels weird about it. I mean, I know what you're saying, but I kind of fall in line with both. I read this issue a lot. Like I can sort of see just the art and not really read the dialogue because the art is so expressive. If you just look at the blank pages, you can follow the story. Like, you know, Peter's walking in. Peter's concerned with the television as James Jonah Jameson looks like he's yelling at him. And then, like, the dialogue is almost like, I mean, the dialogue pluses the issue, but really it's almost unnecessary compared to, like, how well the storytelling is. I mean, we go on and on about this, but really John Romita Sr. is such a master at this kind of stuff.
This could be like a musical montage without hardly any audio, without any dialogue, and just, like, let the video play with these, you know, these shots going on, and you would know exactly what was happening.
Actually, frankly, if it was this art, but with a scripter from today doing it, you wouldn't have anywhere near as many things. They would let the art tell the story in these ones,
especially in Ultimate Spider-Man. Actually, we did skip over something I would want to talk about. On panel 7, page 5. Peter has a thought balloon because he just refused going out with Gwen. He says, "I haven't even had time." It says, "I'm probably the only one who refused her invitation, all because of the complications Spider-Man creates in my life. I haven't even had time for dating scatterbrained Mary Jane these days. Or is she really so scatterbrained? I've never been able to take the time out to find out for sure." So I find that interesting because it says that they're going back and forth on how they want to write Mary Jane. If Peter is like wondering, and that's because the idea that she's like faking her flightiness wasn't even done until like 20 years later. I find that very, very interesting.
Yeah, I think it is too. I mean, we've seen her being just a little party girl, but there's always more to somebody than what you get on the first glance. And she's obviously putting on some sort of a front because there are very few people that literally, honestly care for nothing but the next party. And if they do, they're usually, you know, drugged out.
Drug addicts.
Right, so.
Paris Hilton. Yeah. Although Paris Hilton is probably just like Mary Jane. She's putting on a front. She's like, she's really serious.
She probably goes home and studies existential philosophy. Someone say that word for me.
Philosophizing?
Philosophy. Because you would study a thing, not an adjective.
Maybe. But the comparison of Mary Jane to Paris Hilton to me is sort of sacrilegious.
That's like comparing Hugh Hefner to Bruce Wayne.
Well, that's the thing though, because the public perception of Paris Hilton and the public perception of Bruce Wayne it's this.
They're synonymous.
Yeah, it's an in-universe thing. Like the way that people in the DC universe think of Bruce Wayne is the way that we in the real world think of Hugh Hefner. I mean, Hugh Hefner could be Batman, and the way that like people think of Mary Jane in the Marvel universe is the way they think of Paris Hilton. Like it's.
Well, what do you think about this, Josh? That like Peter, through no real hints of it, says, "Is she really so scatterbrained?" I just find that really kind of. I mean, it's almost like someone went back and wrote that in, but like, there's no way to know that she would have this.
One of those when I approach this bridge, I have a dark spot in my soul kind of things.
It's interesting. But I think at this point, like Mary Jane was just like a joke character. Like there wasn't supposed to be anything more to her. And in fairness to Stan and in fairness to Mary Jane, that's just what the Silver Age was. Characters did not have depth or backstories. Like someone on Crawl, I think it was CBR. Someone on CBR was recently saying how they are surprised that it took Marvel so long to flesh out Mary Jane's backstory. And I responded with, well, the reason why they did is because there's a lot of characters who don't get backstories. Like, we take backstories for granted now because lots of, established characters are given them. But at this point in the series, and even now, like in the year 2011, like we don't know anything about Betty Brant's childhood, Frederick Foswell's childhood, like Ned Leeds, Flash Tom. At this point in the strip, Flash Thompson characters aren't just given backstories and depth. They serve their purpose on the page.
I'm pretty sure
And then
we've gotten a couple of issues of Flash Thompson's childhood before.
Well, we have now, but I'm talking about at this point in the series, 1967 still.
Yeah.
67.
Yeah, the Summer of Love. 67 was the Summer of Love.
And with
So
that
over there.
jumper, he's getting a lot of love action.
Well, I think it's equal to like saying, Flash is such a jerk, or is he really such a jerk? I've never had the time to find out for sure. It just comes out of nowhere in the context of like Peter's thought process.
I don't
Between
think that
beatings, I never took the time to know him.
when he gave me the wedgie. Was he really giving society a wedgie? Was it a political statement?
When he had my head down in the toilet bowl, what was he really doing?
When Flash is giving me a wedgie, he's really saving us.
Every night I pray that something will happen to Flash. Every night Peter goes to bed praying, I hope he just loses his legs or something. Let's see him play football then.
Getting less and less subtle with that, aren't we?
Okay, let's try a different one. I hope.
The venom in your voice is astounding there, Josh.
Oh, if he's not careful, there could be some real carnage around.
Flash is in carnage.
Well, Flash made
in future.
Well, Flash made a point.
That's so crazy I could punch a wall.
It actually took me a second to get that.
And now there's a DC new.
What? That made no sense.
I can think.
Neither does DC new. Yuck.
Okay, so talking about the comic book.
Scatterbrain Mary Jane, is she really so scatterbrained? We'll find out in 20 years.
No, but it was a good point, Don. I totally see what you're saying there. It is a bit more introspective kind of writing than they usually do for these characters, and Mary Jane's not going to get that kind of development for quite a while. We talked about little boy in off the streets delivering a Spider-Man uniform, and he, as a reward, he gets a copy of the Bugle. But alas, we will never know whether our disillusioned youngster ever took his free copy or not, for we now leap ahead to the next morning, and I just thought that was a really funny caption.
Dan Slott will write a story about him.
He will. And little boy, John Lipnicki, I think that's his name, yeah. And they couldn't get John Lipnicki to play him in Spider-Man 2, so they made him a homeless man. Who, what was his reward? Like, a bar of soap. It was a bar of soap and something else. Because I remember, like, Jonah...
shower?
No, like, Jonah offers him something, and then he's like, that's my reward, and then he's like, fine, add in a bar of soap or something like that.
And then Robbie's, like, clutching the costume contemplatively. He's doing it here, you just can't see him. He's off the panel.
Robbie's off panel. Robbie's been off panel since,
We'll talk about that.
Yeah, we will.
So, at the top there, where the boy tells Betty, maintain your cool, lady. And I'm just thinking, maintain your cool? I'm pretty sure that's not how kids were talking. And like, maybe keep your cool. Or stay cool. Or,
Stay cool, boy.
He's very authoritative.
I've never heard a child say maintain.
It's not really a... It's not really a word that goes along with that amount of height.
What?
Like,
excuse me. Can you at least say age, not height?
He's short.
So is Peter Dinklage.
Oh. Usually been watching Game of Thrones. You're sensitive. It doesn't usually.
Hold on. Let's just extrapolate that some way. Let's say if I'm watching, I don't know, I'm watching something with Samuel L. Jackson. Does that mean I'm now more sensitive to race?
Obviously.
I'm doing this podcast, therefore a quarter of me is now more sensitive to race.
Obviously. I mean, Don's here. So I make sure not to make fun of, I never make fun of white people when Don Grant's around.
Because I do all that for you.
All
right. My next note's on page 10 if nobody has anything else.
I was just wondering why Jonah Jameson so quickly jumped to the conclusion that this was actually the legitimate Spider-Man costume and not a store-bought costume like the one Spider-Man wore just a little bit ago.
Because he actually says, like, they hand wave it. He's like, oh, it looks like the genuine article. And
I don't buy it.
Well, I mean, it looks so cheap on the previous page.
It does.
It's a genuine article.
And when he's holding up the shirt, I know it's the curtains, but the way the curtains fall, it looks like he has green spider pants falling out of the bottom of the Spider-Man costume. And at the bottom there, when the police say they're going to start an investigation, how are the police going to investigate this? I mean, are they going to examine the costume for fingerprints? Or, I mean, it's just like, how are they going to investigate a found costume?
Oh,
People
they're
have a
just
right to know.
they're just bullshitting.
Someone's found a costume in a dumpster, yet at the same time there's that disastrous fancy dress party over on the west side.
Exactly.
There's only one conclusion.
Yeah, that's why.
They sent Steve from Blue's Clues out to like look for the little blue paw prints. Like, all right, Steve, you're the only person who can figure out what happened to Spider-Man.
I have no idea what you're referencing.
We referenced Blue's Clues earlier this episode.
I know. I let it pass. Now it's come up again, and I've got no idea what you're on about.
Unless you're from the era of Joe, because Steve got replaced by Joe very unceremoniously. So.
Well, for a while they were doing the show together.
I thought that was like very, very briefly.
Well, it might have been very, very briefly, but those are the episodes we're watching right now.
Are you serious? You have a Blue's Clues project too with your like.
No, we're just whenever he wants to watch Blue's Clues, they just bring it on Netflix, and it just happens to be the next one in the queues. I mean,
I don't think it's still on anymore.
No, it's just on Netflix. We're watching them in order because that's the way Netflix presents them to us, not
That
because it's
better be
any
why
sort
you're
of
watching it in
project.
order.
Yeah, like I understand like continuity with Star Trek and stuff, but Blue's Clues, like for real, like
Yeah, I mean, we do the continuity with Dora, but we don't worry about it with Blue's Clues.
Blue's Clues has these very important arcs, like the marital. Mr. Salt and Mrs. Pepper, even though they have different last names, I guess, and like
Totally forgot about that.
So very important first appearance of Johnny Carson on page 10.
Yeah, it's the first time he's ever appeared in the Public Mindset.
Right. This is before he becomes Nova.
I never knew until today that was Johnny Carson. I just knew it looked like a really good drawing, and it might be somebody, but I never knew for sure.
Yeah, it was Johnny. He was doing the Tonight Show at this point, of course.
Yeah, of course.
I find it interesting that everyone's so interested in the fact that Spider-Man may be gone, when Spider-Man's always been like this like question mark of a character in the New York mindset. I mean, I can understand if it was Captain America, but like Spider-Man's always portrayed like not as a bum, but like sort of like a loose cannon people could do without. So now it's like, oh, where is he now? Like now they care.
Yeah, a lot of people think that loose cannon that you mentioned must be removed. You set yourself up.
But I do see your point because, I mean, nobody knows where he's coming from, Spider-Man. Nobody knows who he is. And,
well, he spins a web at any size.
But now he'll never catch thieves, just like son of a bitch.
Well, he has spider blood, radioactive spider.
Let's moving on. Okay.
Frederick Foswell is a complete idiot. I don't know how he ever ran the organized crime racket, because you don't walk in to the Kingpin's headquarters. Even if the Kingpin's a new character, you don't walk into someone's headquarters and say, so this thing that you spent months, organizing and planning, how about I take over? But because I'm kind of a big deal. Don't know if you ever heard of me. But
big deal.
You can be my second in command.
I want to read this.
You did a good job. I'm gonna give you a gold star. Like, dude, that guy deserved to get shot at with a cane.
If anyone's going to organize the mob.
That's like me at this point, just saying, you know what, Don, Josh, John, you've done a really great job over these past sort of 30-odd episodes, but I really think this needs to be a solo show with me, and you guys can guest star if you want.
And we would
That's
say,
what
you
it
witless
is.
fool, you have the temerity to address the classic game like that.
I've quit all my other podcasts this week. Here's another one. Okay, so what do we think of Foswell turning evil again?
I think it's convenient for the plot because it's never been hinted until now. We've seen more of him since Ramita's been on the book, I think, but I don't think that like this kind of comes out of nowhere like a lot of things.
Well, they never got rid of the mustache, so he was always going to turn evil.
Well, he didn't have a mustache in his first appearance, though. He got that when he
aged like 20 years in between.
when he
jail
came
sentences.
straight. But actually, I can kind of see it because like somebody else is organizing the crime mobs, which was his thing. And when you hear someone else doing the very thing that like you went to jail for,
Like the Green
and being
Goblin?
right? Yeah, and being successful at it's. I could see you thinking, if only that was me. Oh, I could have done this. It's
When I say it comes out of nowhere, I mean to say that like it kind of springs on you, but it's not without. It's not like, oh, I'll be evil now. It is. They do kind of characterize it, which is good.
yeah. I could see it somewhat. And the Kingpin in general. Okay, from what I see here, every single Kingpin origin story contradicts the other one.
Oh, yeah.
It's Marvel Comics, man.
Like in Bendis' run of Daredevil, he does like a story about the Kingpin's rise to power in a flashback thing, and it happens a lot earlier. And here it's looking like he's kind of like becoming the Kingpin, like he's organizing his empire right now. And then there was a limited series, or it might have actually been an ongoing that was canceled about the Kingpin's early days, and it
No way that
totally
would have been an ongoing.
right. It totally contradicted all of this too, and then there's a lot of inconsistency about when the Kingpin became the Kingpin, but as originally presented here, it looks like he's just organizing it for the first time now, just judging by like the criminals' reactions to like, oh, that's a good idea what you're doing, and he's like, the time has come to like, organize all these guys.
He obviously had some sort of clout before this because they actually want to fall in line. It's not like when the Green Goblin tried to do this, they questioned he was, why would I want to follow you, especially with a nut in a costume? And King doesn't really have a costume, but he does seem to have some sort of clout in the underworld at this point.
Yeah, it's just very inconsistent. Like when he got that clout and like that's one thing that really annoys me. It's like, it's like with DC where like people decide let's finally show this first meeting between. I'm not talking about pre-Flashpoint now. I understand it's different now, but like where they were like, hey, let's show this, like, we're gonna do a trade paperback about Superman's first encounter with Kryptonite. Wow, that's a good idea. That's never been done before. Like, and every once in a while, it's like, we're going to show you how the Kingpin rose to power. Ooh, finally! I always wondered about that. I'm glad, that this is cool. We're going to finally see this.
More Josh's bitterness. This episode.
Yeah, there's nothing more off-putting to me than this is the first meeting between so-and-so. It's like, well, okay, but we've had several dozen since, so I'm going to stick with those. Which
is why Teen Titans drives me crazy. But what do you guys think of? What do you guys think of the King? I mean, a lot of times, villains will show up and we either like their design or think they look goofy. What do you think of like this Maltese Falcon fat guy looking crime boss? It's certainly noticeably different than the typical Blackie Gaxton, Blackie Drago, Blackie.
I first saw this version of the Kingpin after having recently read books like Daredevil 300 and stuff, where he's like 8 feet tall and, very, very round, and his hands are larger than the average man's head. Like,
he's pretty effing big here.
He's pretty big here, but he's not like, going to tower over you and not able to get through a doorway big, It's a different take, and I was actually kind of disappointed when I first read it. This was years and years and years ago, but I kind of dig it now. I like how it's more. I don't want to say believable in the sense of on a real starship, but it's not quite as gargantuanly huge as he's going to become later, and I like that. I also like that this Kingpin is much more physical, which we're going to see next episode. And I like that, the gimmicks are cheesy without being cheesy. They're
very James Bond, I think.
Yeah, they're very 60s.
A disintegrator beam built in your cane. If I hadn't leapt aside, for no reason he says that.
And
I will say though that
to no one in particular.
What about that, in this initial appearance, because I think the 60s cartoon kind of adapted the next couple of issues, and I think you get the sense that he's a very kind of like he's a thug more so than like a really popular, really like big boss. I think that like after the Miller stuff and especially after the 90s cartoon, there was a sense of class with him, I think.
Mm.
But right now he's more like a cheap thug who rose to power.
Right. He's made it good, but he's not actually that awesome in himself. What about you, Stephen? What do you think about Kingpin?
Kingpin was, coming from a different angle. First comics that I was buying regularly as a comics reader was picking up about a third of the way into Bendis' Daredevil run. So, he's been a part of my comic reading life pretty much since the word go. So he's a villain that I think I'm quite familiar with, but he's definitely a different character in these Spider-Man appearances. You're right, he is sort of someone who's not particularly great in himself, but circumstances allow him to be in the position that he's in, and you never really get the sense of his true intellect that we see from his Daredevil appearances onwards, or his physical prowess. He is a fat guy here. It isn't until later that we get the idea that no, he's actually, he's big. That's because he's got about 8 inches of muscle surrounding him.
Approximately 3% of my body is actual fat. The rest is pure muscle.
He's crushing me. Well, the name Wilson Fisk, and the whole I'm a legitimate businessman. I don't know what you're talking about. Like, most of that stuff, which is associated with Kingpin, like, doesn't come, which a lot of people take for granted, doesn't come until Frank Miller's Daredevil. Like, it's a lot of people.
Spoilers. J. Jonah Jameson sees him here. He knows, or no, he doesn't see him. Never mind. He never saw him.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, so like he knows what the Kingpin looks like. So like how does Kingpin able to have a Wilson Fisk persona?
Well, like later on in the Tablet of Time storyline, he storms ESU with his henchmen, and like he gets arrested. He's put in jail.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like,
And he swears vengeance on Superman for the rest of his life for having him arrested.
And he has a way to escape jail by having an explosive tooth in his mouth. But I mean, like
dun 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 dun. Sorry.
Saying done.
I think it makes sense that like he has this like sort of secret identity because now, or I mean, it makes sense later on. Oh, I think it's okay. Let me start that over. It's a good idea later on, but if it go in congruence with his earlier appearances, it doesn't make sense because he's an out and out villain. Like in the '90s show, in the Frank Miller run, like it was like Lex Luthor. He was post-crisis Lex Luthor. He was dodging questions and avoiding arrest, but it was never fully pinned on him. I don't think.
Well, he got his records expunged at the beginning of the Miller run because he turns in like all of his former lieutenants. That was a big plot point.
It's all around because his wife Vanessa goes missing and she's sort of lost in the underworld for a bit.
Yeah,
he's really P-word whipped with his wife a lot.
Yeah, because he really is. But well, I guess so. He has a legal clean slate, but people should still remember. But it's kind of like Norman Osborn. Everyone and their mother should have known that Norman Osborn was an insane psychopath who belongs in an insane asylum with insane people. But yeah, he got made top cop for a year. So what's that about?
Rich white people.
Rich white people with Tootsie Roll hair!
Specifically.
Going back to Foswell for just a minute, there's a panel on page 12 where he talks about Parker quitting at the same time as Spider-Man seems to be out of action. Is it merely a coincidence or ... And this never gets followed up on. And it makes me wonder if they really knew what was going to happen with this story 2 issues from now at this point. Because
when he gets shot, he says, "Jameson, I need to talk to Spider-Man for a minute." He says, "I know your secret identity, Peter. Look after Jameson. You're the only one who can." He knew my identity, and he never told anyone. That would have been crap. But.
That would have been crap. Yes. Did y'all feel that Gwen was acting out of character on 13 whenever she has the letter with Flash? Move over, Mr. P. You found yourself a pigeon. Just got a letter from our swinging soldier boy.
I think that she, within this issue, she becomes more and more. She's hiding less and less her feelings, and she really just wants to like. She's liking him more and more. Is more attracted to him, and just wants to be around him.
More just being more bubbly friendly because that's how she feels about Peter now.
At the time when go ahead.
I was going to say her her antagonistic persona is just like, I think that's being set aside because of her feelings for Peter. That's what I was going to say.
At the time when I was writing the Gwen articles, I was like, there's kind of a pattern with Gwen where she hides how she feels about Peter, and she like tries in these tricky ways to get his attention by like showing up at a space exhibit but not saying anything. That doesn't work, so she gets a little more direct as time goes on and a little more comfortable around him, and now she's pretty much telegraphing, hey Peter, it would be awesome if you asked me out. So ask me out whenever you're ready. I might say yes. Oh, Gwen, I really wish you meant that.
How was the party? A disaster area without you. You know, I kind of wish you meant that. And then she thinks, oh, you lovable blind goof. Can't you see I do?
So, like, she's trying harder and harder, and she's going against her very nature of, like, you know, of telegraphing her feelings to like do this, and it's not working, and it's probably frustrating her.
Here, Peter, I'm going to throw you down on the ground and take off my clothes. Oh, Gwen, I sure wish you meant that.
Yeah, but so do we.
It's like I think that, like, you know, Peter thinks that Gwen is the way that Dawn thinks that she is. That whenever she likes a guy, it's all just a big joke.
Right.
Fuck you.
There's a little bit there, right?
And then there's another thing where she says on page 15, how come you haven't asked if I got a mad crush on a bashful black-haired bike rider? Come on, we both know guys finish last. Forget it, lady. You said it, Pete. I didn't. So she's not hiding much at all.
She's telling, look, Peter, it's the runway to my pants.
Yeah.
Come on in for a landing.
What do you want to do tonight? Oh, I don't know. Did you guys do you think that the way that Peter snaps back into being Spider-Man was like believable here, or did you think that he should have thought that this? Because I gotta say, I loved how they did it in Spider-Man 2, where immediately he thinks of Uncle Ben and then like rejects it, because I think to me it's a little hard for Peter to buy him forgetting why he became Spider-Man in the first place. So like I like the fact that in Spider-Man 2 they had this happen where he thought about Uncle Ben and said, no, I'm still quitting. And the reality of it just kept on pressing in his life. Where here it's like, oh yeah, this is why I became Spider-Man. Okay, I'm not quitting anymore.
It seems to me that he's. Hold on. He goes to the start of the issue and he's like, oh my god, I need to spend time with absolutely everybody. I'm going to quit being Spider-Man. And he quits being Spider-Man and he's like, oh okay, everyone's just a little busy. Oh, someone looks like Uncle Ben. I'm Spider-Man again. And that's kind of his arc.
Right.
A little bit.
I don't even think that the guy looks like Uncle Ben that much. The way that like both of those things are drawn, it's like,
Well, he says he reminds him of him.
Especially from 5 stories difference.
I do like how in the origin retelling on page 17, when they have the present for Peter in the panel 2, like Aunt May looks worried, even by the fact that they're giving him a present.
Aunt May still looks like she looks too old for Uncle Ben.
Uncle Ben actually looks a lot older there than he did in the actual book.
Poor Uncle Ben having to put up with Aunt May.
In panel 5, there's a culture reference. When it came to chasing criminals, I was more than willing to let George do it. Let George Do It was a radio drama in the late 40s and early 50s. That,
oh my god, that
what?
There's no possible way I would have ever known that.
Seriously, it was it had this detective for hire, George Valentine, but it stopped going out over the radios in January of '55. So if Peter Parker is 18 in 1967, I mean, he might have memories of it as a small child, but you can probably bet your money that Stan listened to it.
Well, it better. Otherwise, it's just like it's a cosmic coincidence.
It's a cosmic coincidence. No, but yeah, just explaining all the references. It's been a while since our last origin retelling. I know that I forget if it was me or somebody made a joke on an episode about how they sort of tell the origin every 5 minutes, but it really I've been thinking about it as we've been going along. We haven't really had an origin retelling in a while. I think it was the Marvel Tales Annual when it reprinted it. Have we had a recap since then?
Around what issues was that?
That would have been around Sinister Six Annual.
Yeah, I don't. Ooh, that was a long time ago. I don't think so.
I
mean, we've had references to it in issue 33. like Stan says, I can't. He says I can't fail her just like I failed Uncle Ben. He says for that story, see his first appearance in Amazing Fantasy 15.
Oh yeah, he did kind of do some flashbacks there when he was remembering why he should care about being triumphant. But anyways, the confrontation between Kingpin and Frederick Foswell. I loved how Ultimate Spider-Man adapted this confrontation. I think it's the very first time you see Kingpin. The very first thing you see him do is kill
with his hands.
Yeah, with his hands.
Squish.
That was oh man, it's been a long time since I thought about that. That was awesome.
That was.
Then coincidentally, isn't Peter like watching with like a Cartman shirt on TV?
I don't know. He had so many.
I remember that Peter had a Cartman shirt, like in those old issues, and I remember thinking that was like a really, really weird like way of modernizing Spider-Man, like give him a Cartman shirt. That was when South Park was actually big.
Yeah.
Hold on, I've got my it's volume 2, isn't it? It's nearby.
I think so.
Oh, there it is. Yeah, that's
It's the
it's the start of it.
God, I miss that early Ultimate.
Okay, I've gone through all my notes. Does anyone else have any thoughts on the issue?
Not any talking points. I just like the dialogue a lot. Like I'm gonna be saying I can't get Roscoe Lee Brown out of my head, so I'm gonna be doing a lot of that impression in the next issue. But we can just move on.
Who?
He voiced the Kingpin in the '90s animated series, and he's the only definitive Kingpin.
Oh, okay.
Because all the other voices are really annoying.
You're not rating Michael Clark Duncan then.
Michael Clark Duncan did a fine job, but Roscoe Lee Brown is the Kingpin.
Right. That's absolutely true.
Especially when he's surprised. What?
And when he's laughing for no reason. No, Prowler, I won't screw you over. Have a nice day.
London!
So just talking about the ads in this issue.
Oh, yeah.
At the beginning, we have a treasure chest of fun, which has a whole bunch of crap. And one of the things that I thought was most interesting was onion gum. Yes, looks like real chewing gum, but tastes like onions. It's too funny. 12 slices to a pack for 20 cents.
Ideally, gum is supposed to give you good breath, or at least not give you bad breath. So if you have a gum that tastes like onions, I can just imagine by the end of the week them putting a for sale sign on their building and saying, "Well, that's the end of us." It's like, what kind of use is that? That's like Willy Wonka level thinking.
No, it's a joke. You go up to someone and say, "Hey, stick of gum?" And they go, "Yeah." And you hand them the onion one, and you stand back and wait for the hilarious expressions.
Because it'll be instantaneous.
And the house ad for more Marvel masterpieces now on sale are the three major reprint books they have going right now, all the quarter oversized reprints. We had Marvel Tales #9, which of course is our Spider-Man reprint book, and this issue reprints Amazing Spider-Man 14 with the first appearance of the Green Goblin and the first fight with the Hulk.
Hollywood, here we come.
Yes, hit him over the head with a rock.
And New Mexico.
Yes. And Thor from Journey into Mystery, Torch and Strange Tales, Wasp from Tales to Astonish. We also have an issue of Fantasy Masterpieces from the Golden Age of Marvel. And this one actually has the origin story of the original Human Torch from Marvel Comics 1. You can't get more Golden Age than that.
So if you want to know why the camera lingered over that guy in the tube in the first 20 minutes of Captain America, find a copy of Fantasy Masterpiece number 9, and you'll know.
It didn't really linger, but it was there.
It was there. You definitely saw it.
Highlight of the film.
Then there was a Submariner story from Marvel Mystery Comics 4 with some monster stories from the early 60s, including a backup from a Strange Tales issue that had the torch in the front. So yeah, not so Golden Age. But then the issue wraps with a Captain America story from Captain America Comics 10. And the third book is Marvel Collector's Item Classics 9, which we talked about last episode. So moving on, we have Sell Grit and Order More Crap by Mail, dollar bargains.
How can you not?
How can you not? And as Stephen Lacey mentioned in the recap, now 30 days of driving on a single tank of gas. And
that's not an advert. That's an article.
Yeah.
That's just, wow.
Bloody impossible.
I don't know. You're supposed to be ordering for $6 the GT Energy Chamber, which installs in minutes in your car, proven in the labs, proven on the road, and it's supposed to, I don't know, make your gas consumption that much more, or that much less, rather.
I don't know how much driving they think that people are doing, like, you know, because this might be in the days where people only went like 10 miles a day or something, but...
Not in the cities. I mean, maybe in the countries, but not in the cities. Major traffic jams are already a problem in New York.
I go about 100 miles or so a day, sometimes more for work.
I used to do that for my job, driving all over Connecticut. Coin collector specials and a 48-inch talking monster from outer space.
Woo!
For $1. Money back if not satisfied. That's only 2 cents an inch.
That sounds really sexual.
How could you not be satisfied by
a 48-inch monster from outer space?
From outer space, like this monster's not from outer space. I'm not satisfied. Or like
it's from Japan.
And don't forget, it's colorful one-piece quality latex.
And to make him talk, you just use this special designed instrument.
God.
Not sure exactly what we're doing with that, but we're going to keep on going.
It makes him bounce in his big feet.
Yes.
He bends in every direction.
We have another Hodgepodge shop by mail ad where you can get U.S. stamps for free. A darling pet monkey is on the next Hodgepodge ad. Plus, you can have a He-Man voice.
And a space probe.
Wow, a whole bunch of crap ads. The 60,000 candle power beam light for $2. Hey, look, it's a flashlight. You can also be a master of karate.
Oh, is that the one which has, where is it? Yeah, the giant lifelike karate practice dummy.
Yes.
How long will you be practicing on it before it just collapsed?
I don't know. If it's sturdy enough to withstand your karate, then it's probably sturdy enough to hurt. But it's only $1, so I'm sure it's crap.
It has big numbers on the dummy to show you exact location of pressure points and weak spots where you can practice attacking.
Then we have our Marvel Bullpen Bulletins, where we get more mixed-up madness from Marvel's mighty masters of mysticism, magnificence, and misinformation.
That, kids, is what they call alliteration.
Yes.
And now you know.
There's a point for the new cartoons for Spider-Man and Fantastic Four coming in the fall. I've noticed that, like, ever since their one time they mentioned that our Marvel Superheroes cartoon is a hit, which we didn't really believe at the time, they haven't mentioned the cartoon once ever since then.
Well, that's a coincidence.
It debuted. It's a hit! And we're not going to talk about it again because we watched it, and it's crap.
Is this the FF cartoon where they replaced Human Torch with Herbie?
No, that's in the late.
No, that was in the 80s.
This is
that was in the 80s?
70s.
Yeah, late
70s.
70s.
It looks pretty crap for that.
These are the ones which are at about the same technological and animative standard as the motion comics from a few years back.
No, they're more than that. I mean, this is a fully animated cartoon.
Oh, well, they're not the ones which are just panels and voices, effectively.
That's the Marvel superheroes.
Oh, sorry.
The Fantastic Four, it's not great animation, but they're pretty much direct adaptations of the comic book stories. But actually full animation.
I liked that cartoon. They ran it on Cartoon Network when I was a kid, and it was like it held up really well. Like we laughed because when they adapted the first Red Ghost story, in the first Red Ghost story in the comics, like they say, oh, for some reason this blue area on the moon has its own oxygen. So they didn't say that the whole moon had oxygen. It was just that area. But in the cartoon, they just land on the moon and Reed says, well, the air's okay. And I remember my dad busted out laughing.
Yeah. I mean, it holds up about as well as any other 60s cartoon. You know,
very dimly.
Which is not terrible, not great. But yeah, we watched the whole series, and it was decent. I like the opening credits. It's a pretty good theme song, pretty good visual sequence there. Then we also have Marvel is doing great in the UK thanks to editor Al Wallace at Autumn's Press. Just want to mention that since we have some connections with the UK on this episode.
Oh, cool. Where?
Over there.
Hi.
In the UK.
There's an item that people are writing in saying that they want proof that they've won a no prize. So
the fools.
They say, okay, we'll come up with something to send you to say that you've won a no prize, which means the no prize has become a prize.
You think Mike Carlin's making notes for Baldies?
Maybe. Although those were actual things. Anyways.
I thought they were a joke. Anyway, never mind.
Stan's soapbox introduces the idea of having officers among Mary's Marvel marching masses. It's going to be a thing for a long time. We'll see that in the letters column and stuff, where if you've had a letter printed in the letters pages, then you have a certain rank, and if you've gotten a no prize, you have another certain rank. Blah blah blah. And there's a little bitty ad.
Whoa! Sorry, have you not seen who wrote that letter?
Mark Evanier.
Yeah.
Who's Mark Evanier?
Oh, you don't know who Mark Evanier is?
Yeah, he's like Jack. He was Jack Kirby's assistant for years, and is like a writer and a writer in his own right. But he's sort of well known for being sort of privy to Kirby in his later years of his life and various things.
Mark Evanier is basically Jack Kirby's apprentice, who, like Steven says, like he. If you want to know anything about like Kirby that isn't made up by Kirby, talk to Mark Evanier, because he was there for he knows a lot about him and has written a lot about him.
So unlike before, when me pointing out something in the letter column was utter crap, this is an actual person.
This guy is also Eric Larson's father.
Damn you! I've got 3 instances of that later in the episodes I was going to bring up.
I'm just looking him up because I've never heard of him. I'm Wikipediaing him now. He made his first professional sale in 1969. So his career as working with Jack Kirby hasn't started yet. He's still in the military, but it's not that far off. He is 15 years old when he writes this.
But you have to, the way you get jobs nowadays is very different. But you have to wonder if he turns up for an interview or something, and he goes with Marvel. And he goes, "Oh yeah, I was the guy who wrote you the letter about the MMS ranks, and you've put it in." They go, "Ah,
all righty."
See, no, stop it.
Flo, give this man a job.
Stan, you have to stop giving positions to everyone that shows up saying that they wrote us a letter. We're going to run out of money in payroll.
Excelsior!
Stan, this is going to have major repercussions. The comic industry will be dying by the time we get to 2011.
Oh, rubbish.
We won't be alive by then.
So there's also a little bitty teeny tiny ad at the very bottom teasing a title of a comic that's coming soon called Not Brand Ek, which I'll talk a little bit about next episode. Just a little bit, though. Not a whole lot.
I saw them in the X-Men one.
So what is the comic?
It's a parody comic.
Okay, so why don't those? But because it's not Brand X, so like it would be like if I published a Spider-Man comic and I called it Not Batman.
Exactly. I don't know. It's just
I know it's a parody comic. It was just a poor joke because
okay.
I
thought you were
swing and a miss.
We then get our usual Marvel stuff ad where you can get T-shirts and cards and buttons, and then it's Spider's Web. The letters here were kind of cool. Ed Payne points out that when Flash's party was going on at night in issue 47, Kraven smashed in and took them outside, and suddenly it was daytime.
He must be mistaken. Marvel would never make such a horrible mistake.
Never.
They party till the break of dawn.
Right.
Wait, John, you're suggesting that Marvel's making errors around whether it's night or day in their comics. They wouldn't do that 30 years later, would they?
Never, ever.
They're not having detention at midnight. No!
Then, Ultimate Spider-Man Hobgoblin reference. Joseph Hastings has noticed that Gwen is getting prettier every issue and also thinks that Mary Jane is getting uglier.
Is he from the future where Mary Jane has a haircut?
I don't know. But the response is basically like, don't make any blind dates for us, Joseph, because if you think Mary Jane is ugly, yeesh.
Well, she'll probably be mutated into a spider by the time this episode gets released, so technically he's right.
Or have a bunch of spiders crawling up her pants from the toilet. Oh, wait, that's Betty.
Oh, those poor Spider-Man girlfriends. They got turned into spiders or have spiders crawl them up toilets.
Wow.
So they both Spider-Man.
Bruce Baker points out the new trademark image on the top left of the cover, which I meant to mention when we got to it, but I completely forgot.
Yeah, me too. I love.
We had a Spidey head for a while, and then we had a Spidey head redrawn by Romita, and now we have Spider-Man standing, a full body shot of him all tall and sexy for us. And
that's a Ditko drawing too.
The standing Spider-Man's a Ditko drawing?
It'll eventually be redrawn by Romita, but because like the Romita, you can tell because that one's a little shorter and bulkier. This one's like more slender, and you can tell by the web pattern that it's Ditko.
Yeah, actually, now that you've said that, it does look Ditko.
And it's also from Amazing Spider-Man Annual 2 with Doctor Strange. That pose was there.
You're right. Wow.
Aha!
Okay. It makes me wonder why they changed it then, because they had one that was drawn. I mean, Steve Ditko had the head for a long time, but then they had a cover trademark image that was drawn by Romita of the head. Same image, different artist rendition. So why do they change it and go back to a Ditko drawing? That's really strange.
This is my favorite. Like, I know this is a very useless anecdote, but this is my favorite of like the, what do you call them? Like the top left image?
He called it a trademark image.
The trademark. I know, it's just like, you think Spider-Man is like, he's a superhero, he punches guys or whatever, but it's so much more than that. It speaks to like the contemplative side of the character. Like this and the one where he's sort of like leaping at the image, mostly seen on the No One Can Stop the Juggernaut story. Those two are my favorite of the mini Spider-Man trademark images.
Well, I had to remember. Try to remember whenever they change it again, but I know they have this one for a while.
It's had this one for years. Like not until the Marv Wolfman run, or maybe it's a long time.
Yeah, it's a ways down. Well, the guy who wrote that letter
Next issue, it'll be changed.
The guy who wrote that letter was named Bruce Baker, so whenever Stan replies, he says, "Hasta la vista, BB." No, I'm serious. He really does.
Wow.
The fool.
Then Brad Kassler says that Ditko was better than Romita. He says he's tired of Marvel only printing praise in the letters columns, and he calls them childish for referring to the competition as Brand Ek. And in reply, Stan tells him that he misspelled Ek.
I like the fact that someone's writing and they're actually printing a letter that's a bit critical of them and not just accepting any old fan just writing, "I love your comic."
Right.
We set up a Spider-Man fan club at my all-girls college. Here's my dorm room number. Don't come attack me.
There was one letter, though, that I wanted to read. It's by Professor John Fawcett, who, when he wrote this, he was in the art department at the University of Connecticut, where I lived for 3 years. He says, "Dear Stan and John, Marvel Mania has been nibbling away at me for about 2 years now. I finally gave in and have just spent close to $200 to get complete collections of most of your titles." He fleshed out his entire Marvel collection of everything, or almost everything, for just $200. That's kind of crazy. He says, "Spider-Man, in my opinion, is your best effort. If we are to believe what the better mags tell us, he has a fantastic influence on the under 25 group. My one complaint is that you have Peter Parker riding around on his bike without the proper threads. I ride a bike myself, and there are too many kids on the road with bare feet, shorts, t-shirts, and no helmets, giving bike safety a poor record. If Gene Colan had been wearing leathers, he wouldn't have those scraped elbows."
Bare feet?
Gene Colan, what is he talking about?
I guess Gene Colan had a bike accident recently? I don't know. Well, now he's dead, but...
That's very hippie sounding.
And not because of the bike accident, though.
No.
This was decades later.
He says, "Put a helmet on Spidey. If he influences only one rider to wear a helmet and not splatter his noggin all over the road, it'll be well worth it." Nuff said. Speaking of Gene Colan, his artwork on Iron Man is magnificent. I usually recommend all Marvel comics to my art classes to show them how fine comic art can really be. Remember, as Marvel marches on, count me in on the big parade. So that was the art professor of the University of Connecticut in 1967. So
and
yeah,
on Facebook, and he's still working there now.
No, actually, he currently owns the Maine Antique Toy.
Are you serious?
He moved to Maine with his wife, and he owns a toy and art museum up there where he sells like nostalgic art pieces and comic and pop art stuff and some toys and things.
John Wilson, the watcher of podcasting letter.
Yeah, never get a letter published with Marvel, because if you do, John Wilson will stalk you.
In fairness, there is one issue of many years down the line where I think John's going to be expertly qualified to give an update on the letter writer.
Yeah, so if we ever get to issue 629, I'll be able to say. And so yeah, this
629.
Amazing Spider-Man 629.
Hey, remember that, Josh?
I had a letter printed.
And 629?
629 and 650.
Yeah.
I remember 650. What did you say in 629? Oh, never mind. Okay. Carry on. My wayward son. There'll be peace when you are gone. Lay your weary head to rest. Don't you cry no more.
So anyways, here he does say Stan promises that when Peerless Pete takes his place, he'll be astride his bike, all decked out in a protective helmet and all the other accoutrements necessary for life. That's not really quite a promise that they're going to change it in the art, but they do end up changing it in the art in the issue.
From what I remember, you don't see him riding with the helmet on, but you see him like out and walking it with the helmet under his armpit.
He actually does start riding it with it on, but very shortly later he gets rid of the bike.
In the Blu-ray edition of Amazing Spider-Man 50, he and Gwen are both wearing helmets. And
what a lie!
And
Foswell shoots first.
Right. I was about to say that Foswell, shoots Kingpin, first, and they digitally removed the glasses from John Lipnicki.
And for some reason, you see Venom digitally added in the issue.
Yeah, Venom's just in the background, walking by.
Writing letters to Gwen.
Next issue will come as a great surprise to practically nobody to learn that Spidey tackles the Kingpin and his murderous mob, with a startling new development or two concerning frantic Freddy Foswell. You're going to see a lot more action than you've bargained for, plus the kind of dramatic story development that other mags can't even try to imitate. And just a little inside tip to the cognoscente, keep your eye on the king-sized Kingpin. We suspect that he will soon take his place, along with Doc Ock, the Vulture, Kraven, and the late-lamented Green Goblin, as one of Spidey's greatest and most dangerous arch-foes.
Again, it's true!
Until Daredevil steals him. So until Daredevil steals Kingpin and Peter Parker picks a peck of pickled peppers, hang loose, Pussy Willow. We'll meet you on the pages of Spidey number 51. Don't keep us waiting too long, you hear? It gets mighty stuffy facing front between the covers. Nuff webbed.
That was a pretty clever ending.
Yeah.
I must say.
Why Pussy Willow?
Because that's what Aunt May says.
Imagine
Pete, why Pussy Willow?
Well, the phrase is pussycat, and she gets it wrong. Aunt May's dumb.
It's a running gag. Again, you have to listen to the show.
What?
It's a running gag in the comics.
Who are you guys?
Flash is running back in time, and Stephen Lacey's forgetting everything.
Spider-Man confronts Daredevil on a rooftop and says, why did you steal the Kingpin from me? And then Daredevil punches him in the face, kicks him in the skull, and says, I don't know, why did you write a letter to my law office saying that you knew I was Daredevil and wouldn't tell everyone?
Oh, come on, Matty boy, can't you take a joke?
And our issue ends with, do you want to make yourself astronaut tough, where they have a workout thing with people, a bunch of men with their shirt off. Fishing poles, and the really old guy who wants you to draw. Norman Rockwell.
NASA, accelerate your life.
And that's the end of Amazing Spider-Man 50.
It is also the end of episode 38 of Amazing Spider-Man Classics. Want to thank you very much for downloading the episode and giving it a listen. Hope you're enjoying these lost episodes from 5 years ago. Many thanks to Stephen Lacey for all of his contributions to this episode from all the various recording sessions, as well as to Josh and Don for going a bit above and beyond for this particular episode. Future episodes will continue to finish out through issue 52 of Amazing Spider-Man before we go to an email episode and then to brand new episodes of the brand new panel. If you would like to contact the show, you may do so by writing Amazing Spider-Man Classics at gmail.com. You can also go to the Facebook page, facebook.com/Amazing Spider-Man, or you can also follow us on Twitter at ASM Classics. Until next time, on behalf of Josh Bertoni and Donovan Grant, my name is John Wilson. Thank you very much for listening to Amazing Spider-Man Classics in association with SpidermanCrawlspace.com. Good night.
Spider-Man does whatever a spider can. Spins a web any size, catches thieves just like flies. Look out, here comes the Spider-Man. Is he strong? Listen, bud, he's got radioactive blood. Can he swing from a thread? Take a look overhead. Hey there goes the Spider-Man. In the chill of night, at the scene of a crime, like a streak of light, fights, he arrives just in time. Spider-Man, Spider-Man, friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. Wealth and fame, he's ignored. Action is his reward to him. Life is a great big bang-up. Wherever there's a hang-up, you'll find the Spider-Man.
All this is going to get cleverly edited.
But in the meantime, we've got the Kingpin, aka Wilson Big Boned Fisk, popping up, making his first appearance.
I'm not fat, I'm big bone.
Exactly.
Oh, we should do the Carbon voice for Wilson Fisk because there's no way we can pull off Roscoe Brown.
This is the moment we've been waiting for. With Spider-Man gone, my plans cannot reach fruition.
Oh, just one sec then, because I've got to go.
Tell boys start spreading the word.
I'm done.
That's why I'm the Kingpin.
Beefcake.
Oh shit! Where is it?
What are you doing?
I was looking for that bit from Born Again, where it's like a man without fear is to doing the Cartman voice.
Oh.
A man without hope is a man without fear.
That's the one. Thank you.
And I have shown him.
My livelihood. All of it jeopardized by the sudden appearance.
I can't do a Cartman voice as well.
By the sudden appearance of this item. How can I run my?
It's so hard to do that in the Cartman voice, especially that motto.
But you do, Osborn. If you fail, I get your company.
The debt will be paid in full by tomorrow. A thought occurs to me. Either Spider-Man is destroyed or you get Oscorp. Whatever happens, you win.
That's why I'm the Kingpin.
So I couldn't just go for, whoa, I'm the Kingpin, bitch.
So speaking of the bottom of page 10.
Yeah, first appearance of the Kingpin, and it's an ass shot. It's out on the street. Oh, no, sorry, I can't read.
Patch?
Yes, Patch, that's him. That's the one. So I was having, anytime I see Patch, I think of Wolverine. He's a much cooler Patch.
He is.
Jonah's so surprised that the cigar jumps out of his mouth.
Oh no, it's not. No. There's a much better way of reading it. Just look at the positioning of Peter peering and grinning and leering over Jonah's shoulder, and the fact that you don't see his left hand. It's anal fisting.
Oh, I just thought he was gonna give him a scratch on the back.
It's just using a finger. It's not a whole fist thing. That'd be wrong.
Hey, Parker, why is your hand covered in butter?
Oh, Lord.
Whoa!
Come on, Jonah. I'm going to show you why they call it Spider-Man Turn Off the Dark.
I didn't want to spoil you, but I've been betrayed, stabbed in the butt. It says stand in the back, just for the listeners, but yeah.
Oh, gee.
I'm going to give you a dose of web fluid all over your face.
Oh, God. 10 a.m.
That's
in the
what
morning.
he does, regularly.
Okay, moving on.
Not my fault you have sick minds.
Which I'm sure we'll get into.
Yeah, so I can continue. Anyway, some enterprising young whippersnappers. Quickly, what's that? We've already done this. It exists. Guys, I think it's time to time travel. Back 5 years.
The new 52. Look. A bunch of Marvel films going.
Yeah, it's undoing. Look at DC sales rise and rise and rise.
And fall and fall and fall.
Spider-Man being rebooted again?
Look at all those great creators coming back to Marvel. Hickman, Gillen, no, Jason Aaron's still there. Brubaker, they're all leaving Image and coming back to Marvel.
Slott still writing Spidey.
Oh, fuck.